Let me just see who that would be.
Right, the car's getting new tyres on it, so it's had its fuel.
Should be
new
Vilander,
driver,
yeah.
and Vilander at the wheel.
Some new Michelin's going on there. So Bourdais, I mean, once they have their pit stop and sorted out, it depends. Obviously, Bourdais been in for a stint, so when he comes in next, he won't need tyres, will he? So
a bit slow away, I think he maybe
slow
stalled or half stalled.
Lovely rear end on that. I haven't really noticed the rear end diffuser-wise on those latest Pro cars. So we are up and running. The gap 14.2. So Nakajima, it's now 1:19, but Nakajima been into the pits for his stop. They're all on different strategies, pure and simply because of the Toyota's running a little bit longer. Davison having to come in with the Nakajima car for an imbalance in the tyres. Lieb coming in for a slow puncture, only 5 laps into his stint. So everyone running slightly out of sync in pit stops, which is quite good because you haven't really got any idea who's going to win yet.
So this is Olivier Pla catching Fernando Reis for 6th and 7th place. Again, quiet race from the 97, not heard much of them. The Pla car has had issues, but they're catching back up now.
That's it. And our second commentary team, our helpers have come to the rescue of, and they're going to take you through basically. Oh, hang about, yellow zone at 20, yellow zone at 20. That is Mulsanne at the end of the straight. Someone is somewhere off.
There we go. Oh, it's car 28 again.
Car 28 again. Oh, man.
Right, on that note.
On that note, that's a great time to kind of like swap over. The 4 car coming into the pits again with more problems probably. But yeah, we're going to swap over. For the next 6 hours, you have the Jake and Giles show. I'll tell you what, if you have as much fun as we've had, people from Canada, we've had America, we've had South Africa tweeting us. We have talked some rubbish for the last 6 hours, I'll tell you. But hopefully you will be able to enter, you'll be looked after by these two as the 28 car sits in the gravel. It's Sarrazin leading from Lieb, followed by Nakajima.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Peter. So, we're back in action once again. 6 hours of this for us, once again, as a slightly battered numbered 6 Toyota that was leading makes its way out of the pits and has just lost the lead. As a result of pitting, Stéphane Sarrazin handing over later on in the stint. He's still very much in the car at the moment, with Nakajima-san in the sister car. Still there, still strong, and still powering up for 3rd position.
So that's Sarrazin just completing his 17th pit stop with the Porsche, Mark Lieb on 18. So that we are slightly out of sync there, but this is what we expected. We've seen that the Toyotas can go that little bit further on fuel load. That extra lap is how they've managed to save that pit stop. Now they're going to do that in the second half of the race again. So interesting to see that now that's happened, the Porsche running faster for shorter has ended up net gain ahead of the Toyota. So that's the first part of this played out. So now the Toyota's got to do that on genuine pace. So I wonder if what we're going to see is them dropping back to be doing 13 lap stint faster as we go into the yellow flag zone there, where they're trying to clear the Pegasus racing car, which has gone straight on in its favourite spot. That happened, I think, twice during our stint last night, down at the end of the Mulsanne. So just looking at the other classes as well, because as Peter, I think, was just alluding to, this is the hour where we start to see those really fast times getting pumped in again, Jake, and the circuit is as rubbered in as it's going to be. We haven't had any overnight rain. The air is nice and dense, and these engines are going to be getting as much power as they possibly can. So we were seeing times going in, quick times going in LMP2 in the Pro and in the AM GTE classes. This slow zone will be killing that for now. But I expect the next hour to be seeing some of these guys putting in some really fast times. And Matt Griffin actually put in a second personal best fast time for that car in the GTE AM class, currently lying fifth, but did a 3:57.4, so 2 in a row for him.
Well, the big question, now that we have 9 hours to go, and we still have 2 Toyotas towards the front end of the field with the Porsche with it, number 2, can Porsche overhaul the 2 Toyotas? Well, the answer to that is yes, but they're really going to have to work hard to do it, because Toyota are in a very good position. They're not out of the water yet, Toyota, because they still have a few more tricks up their sleeve to unleash if they are going to get this job done safe and sound, because the Porsche team are still throwing everything they possibly can at Toyota, and it has been that way pretty much for the last 8 hours of the race.
Absolutely. You know, when we left our last shift 6 hours ago, we were seeing that number 1 Porsche coming in with the issue of a water pump failure, and the water pump being within the bell housing of the gearbox. So the guys having to split the car to repair that. We saw the almost effective repair. He got out, got down through Tertre Rouge before it failed again, and tried to bring the car back on battery. In the end, he had to bring it back with under power, but we've lost that car now. So we are down to one Porsche, and you have to question whether that problem is going to strike the number 2 Porsche as well.
Well, Anthony Trevet kept me informed just as we made the changeover from the pits that the number 2 Audi is not far away from its next stop, and at that stop there is going to be a driver change. So that's something we can obviously anticipate and look forward to. Mark Lieb in the car at the moment, Sarrazin and Nakajima in the Toyotas, as into the pits comes the 50. That, of course, is the Labre Competition Chevy. Yamagishi, Reg and Belloc are in that car. Jean-Philippe Belloc, the very last driver to be confirmed for a race seat going into the Le Mans 24 Hours. He was only confirmed, I think, on Monday.
Yeah, in scrutineering on Monday.
Scrutineering, so great to see he's managed to get himself a seat back on the grid again.
So the number 2 Porsche now running down out of Tertre Rouge down to the first chicane. Interesting to see that the number 1 car, now that they have got that car back out, is sitting on his tail, playing tail gunner for him right the way through. So I suspect we'll see those 2 cars running together, and some strategy played on the number 1 car to try and optimise what's going on with that number 2.
Let's keep you up to date with the LMP2 battle. It's the Alpine that leads, the Signatech Alpine, with Nicolas Lapierre in the lead of that one, followed by the TDS Terrier with Pierre Terrier in second position. With the Oreca number 26, the G-Drive car has Roman Rozanov at the wheel, and they are on the verge of being lapped for second position by the crew in second place. So it's slowly starting to expand in terms of a gap, because there's 1 lap between the Alpine in the lead of the race and the second place Terrier, and then there's almost a lap back to Roman Rozanov, and then there is a lap back, possibly 2 actually, to Scott Dolan in the Jota Sport G-Drive Gibson. Then Panciatici, who we saw having some rather amusing histrionics a little bit earlier on. Let's put it this way, he knows how to count up to 1. Vitaly Petrov in the SMP racing car is there in 6th position, in front of the all-British Stracker Gibson, with Nick Leventis at the wheel, in front of the slightly hopping Kevin Bujunjin. Interesting
to see that he's got back in that car, because again, as we were leaving last night, he was getting lifted out of that car. An incident on, I think it was on Wednesday evening, causing him some concern, injury to his leg. He was passed clean to race yesterday morning, but was definitely struggling late on last night.
Well, let's talk about the one thing nobody wants us to talk about, and that is retirements, because somebody on Twitter, Adam Wells, is saying, has there been any significant car-to-car contact? As far as I can tell, this is the cleanest 14 hours I can remember. I agree with you, but there have been some casualties.
The hardest car-to-car contact we saw, I think, was probably what's gone on with number 6, or the most significant, the side of that car when he hit the AM I think it was an Am Ferrari.
It was.
Down the side. That's done it some damage. It's a little bit wounded, and if they get the opportunity, they will do something about that under a safety car, because they're going to be losing time. But that's a whole floor change. That could be up to a lap. The other cars that we've lost that we really of note, the Bergmeister Porsche is still stuck in the pits now. That's been in there for quite a while, that's for certain. They're more than 40 laps back. So, but Kevin Estre last night becoming our third retirement after the KCMG car. So the two factory GTE Porsches in effect out of this now. Kevin Estre losing the right-hand bank of cylinders and then exploding in a very big way as he came through the Porsche curves.
I saw that last night while I was perching in the grandstands. I saw that on the big TV screen. Bergmeister in the Porsche down the order. Davide Rigon not having the greatest day at the office either. The 71 Ferrari and the 51 Ferrari.
And the 51 Ferrari. So that's the big players in the WEC Championship in the pro category, GTE Pro. Rigon is in the pits. Not listed as a retirement, but again a long way back. And the Pierre Guidi car. I've lost that car officially now. Garage door is down. I'm not sure what the failure was in the end, because they did get that car back out after the electronics fault that we saw, which cost them sort of 10 laps. But no, that car gone as well.
So the class leaders then in the four classes at the moment. It's Porsche who leads the way in LMP1 by 56.6 seconds with 18 pit stops to the number 6 Toyota's 17. At this point, that could be crucial, but there's still a long way to go. In LMP2, it's Lapierre in the 36 Signatech Alpine that leads it by a lap to the Pierre Thirier TDS Thirier. In the Pro category, it's Ferrari out in front at the moment by just 4.7 seconds. It's still the closest fight, GTE Pro. It's astonishing.
Absolutely. I mean, Villander does owe us a pit stop. But that said, the gap is going to ebb back out to just over a minute, and Bourdais will hop him at that point. Villander's done full service. Sebastien Bourdais in the Ford will owe us full service. So it is ebbing and flowing. The gap, the top three there covered by 2 minutes, is a genuine gap. It's going to be quite exciting. I think that's going to come down to less than a minute between those top three once we get the stop from Villander.
And fair play, up to fourth position, it's the Aston.
Aston just keeping going, driving it round and round and round. The Dane train plus Darren Turner. Again, they're all pros. They all know what they're doing. Just set its fastest lap of the race so far, a 3:53.737. So that was on the last lap. Yeah, Nicky Team's getting on with it now. They know what they need to do to close that gap. They're still in with the Hun.
We're happy to take tweets over the course of the next 6 hours, but it's not quite going to be so Twitter happy, just because we're at the very business end of the race now and we don't want to miss anything. So we'll wait till quiet lulls before we take your tweets, but do please keep them coming into us at Jake Sanson on Twitter. And there's still a long way to go for these guys. So the battle is continuing on. The Audis, both having recently boxed and come back out again. Fair play to them in terms of their recovery. They've both had issues, and they're 4th and 5th. The number 8, 2 laps off the lead, and the number 5, 11 laps off the lead.
Yeah, and you know, Audi will be particularly despondent, I think, at this point. Normally they're waking up in the morning in the box seat, ready to go fighting. Instead, they're ready to go chasing.
When is it over?
Yeah, I mean, the gap's not huge. You know, we've got a 3-lap gap. It's not like those guys are a long way back. I think it will ebb back to being a 2-lap back. So 2-lap gap. And what we've seen last night with the Porsche, you know, it's very easy for those guys to lose 5, 6, 10 laps in the pits. Let's see, you know, the Toyotas so far, touch wood, the reliable one. The car that's just kept going at a sensible pace. No issues for either car, and they've got 2 bullets in the gun at the moment, separated by 14 seconds.
Driver change at the Signatech Alpine. Nicolas Lapierre gets out. I think it's Stefan Richelme who's getting in. No, sorry, it's Gustavo Menezes.
Yeah.
So Menezes is in the car now. And That is the leading LMP2 car. They have about a lap at the moment, so it's not a massive panic, but they are not going to spare any time if they can help it, because they know that as close as it is, a lap, that sounds like a lot. It really isn't with 9 hours to go. Anything can happen at this point, and a lap in LMP2 at the moment is only about 3 3/4 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know it's all coming alive now. So they'll be getting on with it. Putting Nick Lapierre has just thrown in a fantastic stint, bringing him through into the early hours. And no, Rick Liami in. He'll be pushing on very hard now just to try and maintain that gap, if not grow it, just to give them a bit of a cushion. Because, as we know, with LMP2, anything can happen at any particular moment, and they really are struggling in the traffic with the GTE cars this year. It looks...
Fuel level low. Driver change. Copy.
What we were suspecting, a driver change. And who is it that's going to be taking up the position? It's Romain Dumas. So Romain Dumas will be swapping for Marc Lieb. A lot of newbies with us for this, their first Le Mans 24 hours, and they're all asking a similar question here. Why do some cars have yellow headlights while others have white headlights? That's a very easy question to answer. The white headlights are prototypes, the yellow headlights are GTE Pros and GTE AMs. So that's the difference. That's how you know which is which from a long way off. You can't really tell which prototype is which from a long way off in the dark, and that's a retirement. That is a retirement, I think, at the 92 Porsche.
No, that's Rebellion.
Oh, that's Rebellion.
That looks to me like the 13 Rebellion.
The 13 Rebellion is out of the race, as confirmed to us by Anthony Trevet, and the Porsche 92 and the Porsche 91. We now have confirmations that both the Porsche Motorsport 91 and 92 are out of the race, and both the AF Corse Ferraris 51 and 71. Thank you for the confirmation there, Anthony Trevet, down in the pits. So we have 2 Ferraris and 2 Porsches, 2 of the big heavyweights in this GTE Pro battle, out of the race. And yet, Ford continue on with the Rizzi Competizione car.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony's going to try and get a word with Bart Hayden or Ian Smith down at the Seba team, the Rebellion team. Those guys were running so well last night when we left, and we were looking at, you know, are they going to be the ones that nick the podium? But seeing them out, it's quite scary. But to see, so there was a clutch problem, Anthony saying, with the 12 car through the night, which is where that car's gone. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that was on the 13, because I think it was the 12 car that had been the walking wounded from the start, wasn't it, Jake?
I think it was, to be fair. Yeah, I think it was. Here is the driver change. Marc Lieb out, Romain Dumas in. And it's going to be a really interesting battle now between the Porsche and the Toyota. This driver change is not going to cost them the lead, because they managed to build up a big enough gap to do this. But Toyota are still pushing on, throwing everything at them. This is not the kind of race where you can just allow a strategy to play out and see what happens. There is the Toyota. It's about to take the lead, in fact, so they have got close enough to take the lead.
Flowing there, yeah, absolutely. So that's us back to the Porsche with 19 stops against Sarrazin on 17. So this is genuinely, there you go, the lead change as he comes out the end of the pit lane. This is how it's been the whole race.
I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. And now what's going to be in Romain Dumas' head? Get back in the lead. It's very simple. Yeah,
I think, you know, it is push on, but what we can see quite clearly is this demonstration of that 14th lap for Sarrazin. Being able to take that 1 lap extra on every stint, just saving them stops, The number 2 car must have had an issue to be 2 stops now in effect behind, but Sarrazin owes us a stop very shortly.
And that will technically put the Porsche back in front. So they don't have to push too hard in theory, but this is the mind games, Porsche versus Toyota. So back in front goes Stéphane Sarrazin, and his response to Romain Dumas is, okay, mate, what have you got? And down the Mulsanne straight, Romain is about to declare, I've got quite a bit in the tank, actually, and I'm going to get this lead back. I'm not going to sit on my laurels and just allow you to hold the honour at the front of this race. There's 1 billion Porsche fans around the world, and I've got to make sure they're on my side, and they still believe in us. So we're coming through. Hope you don't mind, bucko.
Interesting to see what's going on in the GTE Pro class. We've got Nicky Thiem just setting a fastest lap for the...
He's and he's just
behind you, and Keswick is 11 seconds behind.
There you go.
That's the message. He's right behind you. And it is for position. The gap for the lead after, 16 hours nearly, is 1.2 seconds. 2.1 seconds it opens up to now.
So Nicky Team, just going back to that. So the Astons have obviously decided daylight's coming. We're here. We've got this far. Now we're going to get on with it. So Nicky Team in the 95 car, 3:53.4 last time round, the fastest lap of all for that car. It's still not, even on that, going as quickly as Scott Dixon in the number 69 Ford in front of it. He's able to do that consistently, times of that pace. You know, so Aston just not with the pace in the tank in the Pro class with the new 2017 regulations and the increased aerodynamics.
15 hours and 18.5 minutes into this race. The top 3 cars are separated by less than 12 seconds. Pinch me. I must be. This is genuinely turning into the best Le Mans 24 hours
Absolutely.
in living memory.
So Simon Dolan's actually hit the wall.
Oh, that's damage. That's a lot of damage. Now he's going to struggle to get that back to the pits because he's on the wrong side.
He'll be able to cut across. That's okay to cut across.
Can he time it right? This is the thing. Can he time it right with the traffic? Oh, no is the answer. Let's see what's happened.
To go the wrong side of the curve.
He's gone straight on.
There. So no, he's made it in. He's made minor contact, and the way that the Zytek is laid out, the Gibson is laid out, they can actually get that front corner off very quickly. That pod is a separate piece to the remainder of the nose, so they will be in, and then they'll pull that off.
I'm in the pits. I've waited a long time for Mark Lieb, and he's back in the pits, in the garage, so we'll have the chance to ask you some questions. So Mark, that was a big stint for you.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, we had a really good car in the night on soft cold tires. Unfortunately, we had a slow puncture already twice today, so this cost us a bit of time, but we could gain time to the Toyota. We could make some time up in the night. Now it's really interesting to see where we are at daytime and if we can follow the Toyotas.
That was the puncture that motivated you to stop twice in a few minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I was out in my second stint, and I think after 5 laps I had a slow puncture, so I had to pit, and then I was in for a double stint. So yeah, I'm awake now since 12 o'clock, so I think I need a little bit of sleep now.
Yeah, you need a race, that's for sure. And how was the rhythm for you? Because we know that, as usual, the battle is very fierce for the lead. So just a few seconds between the leaders, so that's great.
Yeah, it's very demanding. I mean, it's not easy, but actually the rhythm was okay. I could actually get some consistent lap times. And yeah, this is the key. Sometimes really high risk in traffic, sometimes you just have to avoid to overtake, and then it's okay, but yeah, it's not so easy.
And when will it be your last stint or your next stint?
I don't know, I have to check. I just got out of the car, so I will check.
Thank you very much. Have a rest. Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
There we are. Anthony Dreve catching up with Mark Lieb for us.
What's interesting there is Lieb out, Dumas in, no change of tyres. That's very odd to
that is
send a driver on somebody else's tyres. Normally you give them their fresh shoes, they get going and they run on those through their stint. So straight, yeah, I mean, Porsche looking to save the 20 seconds there and obviously feel that these tyres can go at least 1, probably 2 more stints. I'm not sure when he last took tyres, but we'll be keeping a note of that, that's for sure. Just going back to the Jota car, there was more damage there than we hoped. The upright looked like it was broken, either the upright or the top wishbone.
That could be at least 40 minutes in the pits, that car.
Yeah, they can change a whole corner in about half an hour, 40 minutes, and they'll have a complete corner set up ready to go on. So that'll be sort of 6 bolts off, corner on, and on its way again. And as I say, that front bodywork is very quickly changed on the Gibson. So let's see where they are in 20 minutes or so.
In the first sector of this lap, Romain Dumas took 0.4 of a second out of Stéphane Sarrazin in the lead. On the second, he took 0.6 of a second. He's currently going a second per lap quicker than the Toyota in front of him. The gap down to 1.5 seconds. Meanwhile, behind them, Nakajima is absolutely on it. He's going through this racetrack like a rhino through cardboard, charging 9.7 seconds now behind our race leader. There is less than 10 seconds between the top 3 cars in the Le Mans 24 hours after 15 hours and 22.5 minutes. It is astonishing how close this still is. It's not done yet. And the Porsche struggling to get past one of the LMP2s through the Porsche curves. That was very nearly a race-ending moment there for the Porsche as they tried to get past the Manor.
The Manor car in trouble last night, the LMP2 car going into the wall backwards as we were leaving. Good to see that they've got that car turned around and back out, but a long way down the order now.
Well, that fantastic lap from Dumas ruined by traffic at the end of the lap there, because he has now lost everything he's gained in that lap and a bit more. And yet, the Toyota behind him is still coming. Sarrazin did a 3:29.6. Nakajima did a 3:28.6. So this pincer movement of the Toyotas with the Porsche as the piggy in the middle. This is really starting to get to be an exciting time in the race.
Absolutely, 10 seconds between them. Nakajima, one stop more than Sarrazin. So the number 6 Toyota story really has been just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep out of trouble, apart from the damage we know that it's carrying on the side. But just plodding away, plodding away, plodding away and staying ahead. 26 G-Drive car coming past us and into the pits. So the Jota boys will be busy boys. That's Roman Rozanov coming in from 3rd in the LMP2 class.
Interesting tweet from Offbeat Mammal. Any thoughts on how long until we see an autonomous car in Garage 56? Well, when I was down in the paddock yesterday night, about 1 o'clock in the morning, I did happen to see a very enthusiastic a spectator who was taking it all in and enjoying it for what it is. That spectator? Alejandro Agag. Maybe they're thinking about it somewhere.
We'll see. We'll see what's...
I know he's got his Robo Races cars that are going to be supporting Formula E next year. So who knows? I'm not sure if I know the answer to that one, but maybe 5-10 years from now could happen. Anything's possible in motor racing these days, by the sound of things.
Absolutely. No, it'll be interesting to see what develops there. It's certainly part of the future of the sport, but yeah, they're not quite the test of man and machine that Le Mans is all about. So I'm not sure how welcome the ACO would make that, because this is the ultimate test of man and machine.
And if you take the man out of it, well, you've kind of lost a lot of the essence of it.
Absolutely. You know, that's the autonomous bit doesn't really work at Le Mans.
Yeah, you're basically programming a glorified supercharged Hoover, really,
Go
aren't
and
you?
drive around. Exactly. It's not really in the spirit of the Le Mans 24-hour.
I wouldn't mind a test of it somewhere, 24 hours, like they used to do in the old days when you'd test a road car to see if you could break it within the first 24 hours of its life. I think they used to do that with Saabs, didn't they? There was that fantastic test in the early 90s, I think 94 or 95. They sent 7 Saabs onto a racetrack for 24 hours to see if they'd break.
Kazuki, we see vibrations, but it's okay to run like that. It's still okay. Stefan 9.3, Cuba 5.8.
Well, he's got vibrations, but incredibly, despite the vibrations, whenever there's clear traffic, he's still the fastest car out there, as we hear from the pits that Anthony Drevet is down at G-Drive.
Yeah, Simon Dolan in the pits. What happened on the car number 38?
It's pretty simple. Braking into the chicane, the first Ford chicane, and the Aston B that I just overtaken just punted straight me up the back and put me in the wall. It's disgusting, absolutely disgusting, the standard of driving. If I find out who it is, they've just destroyed our race. And as far as I'm concerned, it's just not allowed. It shouldn't be allowed, not at this level. Disgusting.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you, Simon.
Wow. Not a happy man. Simon speaks his mind. He is one of the best amateur drivers we have here. You can't really call him an amateur driver.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Gentleman driver gets used as a term a lot. He's absolutely
I don't think it applies in Simon Dolan's case.
No,
but
and Simon normally won in that situation to walk away, not comment.
Yeah, I'm absolutely on Simon Dolan's side for any kind of incident like that. If somebody's punted him up the back and ruined the race, then yeah, you really do have to question the driving standards. I know it's long into the race. I know we're 15 hours and 27 minutes into a race. I know it's dawn, and I know drivers will get tired. But still, if you've got someone in the team doing that...
Yeah, exactly. Without seeing it, we can't really judge. But, yeah, no, Simon very animated about what he believes went on.
9.4 seconds. That's the gap between the first 3 cars in this motor race. Period.
And coming down.
And it's coming down.
Ever so slightly.
It's down to 8.9 seconds now.
It's just, and with traffic, overall net, it's still closing down. You know, and then the gap is 2 laps back to the first Audi. If Audi had been told that this time in the morning they were going to be 2 laps back, I don't think they'd have been particularly pleased. But they lost the time last night in the garage making repairs, and they had to make repairs on both cars. So the number 7 car is the car that's been taking the most of the hits. They had to change a turbocharger, but then using that car to prepare for the other things that needed to be done on the 8 car. So practicing repairs on the 7 for the 8. So we see some lovely moody shots of one of the cars coming in. That's our LMP2 leader, Ricky Almi, coming into the pit lane.
Well, @TearBanana on Twitter has informed me on the bit I missed to do with the number 2 Porsche. I was asking, why has that done a few too many more pit stops than the Toyotas? He's just explained to me the number 2 had a 5-lap stint during the night because of a slow puncture. I missed it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's the 98 Aston. So that is problems there for Matthias Lauda, Paul Dalla Lana. Dalla Lana's in the car again.
Paul had an off again last night. You know, Paul, the man there, he's ultimately paying the bills. He does a fantastic job of what he is here to do, of bringing that car home in one piece. Has these little moments, but ultimately, you know, he should have won the WEC last year without those moments. They have the pace. He has the pace. But, yeah, just needs to calm down and get the job done. Remember that he's here for a 24-hour race.
Question, might that have been the Aston that was involved with Simon Dolan? It's potential, isn't it?
I wouldn't want to poke it towards them.
No, indeed.
It's not our place to say, is it? It's we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash, and we'll find out what's going on. And yeah, no, Paul will get his bit done, get out that car, and hand it over to probably Pedro Lamy, who will suddenly be throwing in fastest sector time after fastest sector time very shortly, I'm sure.
How important is the worldwide reach of the Le Mans 24 hours? Well, we've just had a reminder on Twitter. Greg Cesaroni tweets, I'm sitting across the street from Daytona International Speedway, and I'm watching the race on my phone and have been since the start. Wow, that is good for you, mate. That is how important this race is worldwide. Some people, I've been trying to talk to my friends and my colleagues about this. What does this race actually mean in terms of this? This is not something that, you know, goes unnoticed. This is the world of motoring sits up and pays attention to this race, because everything that happens in this race dictates what happens in the motor racing industry to a certain degree for the next 12 months. This is genuinely the arena where if you win on Sunday, you sell on Monday. Now, this is the number 1 Porsche. So they're not out of it yet. They're not retired.
No, they're not retired, no, but they've lost an awful lot of time. They're just going to be using that car again as test pig to find out what other issues they might come across on the number 2. But as far as any race result goes, they're a long way out of it.
Well, number 2 to a certain extent is trying to win Le Mans. Number 1 is not only trying to help number 2, but is also trying to iron out kinks for the World Endurance Championship.
Yeah, exactly. Iron out kinks. I think that they're going to struggle to get within the 70% for World Championship points. But equally, they've got to complete 70% of the race distance. They'll carry on pressing on hard. If they can get to that, then those points are massively valuable to them, and the overall position that won't affect it. But it's just whether they can complete enough laps to be classified.
A couple of people on Twitter hinting at another potential Garage 56, hydrogen powered. That was alluded to yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That car is already running. So the guys are struggling for funding to get it going, but the powertrain's already tried, tested and proven. So we will see that technology here within a couple of years.
Well, it was out there before the start of the 24 yesterday. They were taking it for, I think, 2 laps they did. So somebody somewhere in the crowd who's got several billion pounds saw that and went, that's a good idea. So do not be surprised if Garage 56 next year is a hydrogen-powered car. Into the pits comes the number 1 Porsche. Mark Webber is about to get out of the car. And I think he's about to be replaced by his Timo Bernhard. Yes, it's certainly not Brendan Hartley's helmet. We can tell. We can tell it's Brendan Hartley by his Red Bull helmet, and Timo Bernhard is the one with the yellow, red and orange on his helmet. And the massive B, as Anthony Trevet points out, is a big giveaway. Yes, good point. So out of the car will get Mark Webber in true Aussie Grit style. It just seems like a bit more of a dejected Porsche #1 crew. There's not quite the sense of urgency that there was a few hours ago.
No, I mean, ultimately, they now know that what they need to do is stay calm and try and collect some points.
Avery Hage, if you had to pick one driver to race in the 24 Hours of Le Mans who hasn't raced in it before, who would you pick? In a battle like this, it's quite difficult to answer that question because we've already got an incredible elite amount of drivers, including this guy, Tony Villander.
Fernando Alonso is the obvious choice, and he said that he wants to be here. You know, he is, without doubt, the fastest driver in the world at the moment, I think.
Wow, you went out on that limb. I'm impressed. It's a good choice.
He ultimately, he is, you know, he wants to buy, he's already got a bike team, I believe, and he sees himself here, you know, probably as driver team owner. So, yeah, I mean, see what happens. McLaren's not exactly the car to be in at the moment, and never know. You never know what might happen.
But if the homologation rules fall their way, McLaren may well consider entering a car in the Le Mans again.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, those guys are always looking at it, as all these manufacturers that are running in GT3 series throughout the world are. But the convergence talks between the ACO and the FIA and SRO, we wait and see what happens. You know, the current Ferrari 488 is the first car that can be converted from GT3 to GTE specification, and that's key with the way that the class structures have fallen over recent years. So for next year, you'll be able to buy a 458 GT3 car, and when it becomes a GTE AM potential car next year, you'll be able to buy an upgrade kit from Michelotto, the people that produce those cars for Ferrari, and go GTE racing. So it's a very clever move by Cristiano Michelotto and his team in Padua, who produce those cars.
The gap could be like this at the top of LMP1 and at the top of GTE Pro, right the way to the finish line. It could be that unpredictable throughout. I mean, Villander in the Ferrari is only 10.8 seconds ahead of Sébastien Bourdais in this Ford that we're watching. And that's 10.8 seconds. We knew it was going to be close. I didn't think it was going to be this close at this point in the race. This is astonishing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what that tells us is these cars, we've got team radio.
I've lost a lot of grip between the first and the second stint. Picked up a lot of understeer. It's getting pretty tough out there.
Yeah, 10-4. That's what we figured. We may change our plan here a little bit.
Okay, so the 68 Ford is actually going to, running second with Sébastien Bourdais at the wheel, is actually going to react to a balance issue early on by the sounds of it and take a change. So they're only 10.9 seconds behind Tony Villander in the Ferrari 488, the Risi Competizione car, which is running first overall in the GTE Pro class. So they may change plan, we hear there. So probably some new boots on and send it. I suspect they'll change compound of tyre to try and bring the balance back.
So the LMP2 battle at the moment, it's Signatech Alpine 6th overall and leading the way, a lap ahead of the TDS by Thierry Oreca. Then just managing to stay on the same lap is the G-Drive Oreca with Roman Ruzanov at the wheel. Panciatici is there in 4th place now, with Ladijin in the SMP BR Engineering car in 5th, and Nick Leventis in the Straka in 6th position. And that big accident for Scott Dolan has really, as he said, ruined their race. They have slipped down, Simon Dolan, sorry. They've slipped down to 10th position now, just behind the BR Engineering SMP of Nicolas Manassian, who's already had their fair share of woes, that car. So, unfortunately, it looks as if 2014 is not going to be a repeat scenario here.
No, you know, and I don't think that those guys would necessarily have expected it in terms of coming here with the Gibson. I think things have moved on an awful lot with, you know, the Oreca absolutely bossing this at the moment. So you've got Alpine Oreca, Alpine Oreca, the first 4 places. The next best of the rest is the BR Engineering car, the SMP racing car with Kirill Ladigin at the wheel at the moment. But the first what down to Kirill in 5th, covered by 3 laps in LMP2, which is still pretty tight. But the battle there, the real battle is for 1st and 2nd. Roman Ruzanov in the Gazprom G Drive. The other Jota car is 3rd, but a lap back on Pierre Thirier and Stéphane Riquelme.
Well, in the GT Pro category, it's Ferrari, Ford, Aston, Ford, Porsche. And that 6th position Porsche is the Dempsey Proton car. As into the pits is the 62, the leading GTE AM car, the Scuderia Corsa machine with Jeffrey Seagal in the car, sharing the car with Sweedler and Bell. But the 6th position car, the Dempsey Proton Porsche, I was particularly interested with the progress of this as the Scuderia Corsa boys pat themselves on the back for a job well done. And that has maintained their advantage. They're a lap ahead, actually.
They're doing a fantastic job. They've just kept out of trouble, gone round and round, not hit anybody. Pat Long chasing them down in that number 88 Proton competition car. And then Manu Collard, you know, he's been here, I think this is his 22nd Le Mans in a row. Who better to have chasing them down in the other Ferrari 458 Italia. But yeah, a lap separating each of the podium sitters in the AM class.
There's a potential for 2 American squads to win in GTs here because the Ford team is not far away from Tony Villander, 11.1 seconds. And then those boys at Scuderia Corsa leading the way in their Ferrari and GT AM. We just caught sight of the car I was going to talk about, Richard Leitz at the wheel in the Dempsey Proton Porsche. I happened to pop into their garage while I was on my exploratory journey around the pits last night. Somebody asked on Twitter, what do commentators do between their stints? Well, I know what you did. You slept.
I slept.
You slept, and that was a very sensible decision because you're looking a lot more fresh-faced and bright-eyed than I did. I decided, right, let's go and explore the pits. Let's see who we can talk to. And strangely enough, the first person I got to say hello to was Patrick Dempsey down in the Dempsey Proton Porsche. It was a very brief encounter, myself and Patrick, so I don't think I'm going to have a career in the movies anytime soon. But what I did get from him is he patted me on the shoulder and said, all's well, no issues. And off he ran again. So he's very well into this. He's as good a team manager as he is a racing driver. And let's be honest, 2nd last year proves he's a darn good racing driver.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pat Long spent a long time nurturing his career in both senses of the word. You know, he's gone through and brought him on as a team owner. And then, you know, as a driver, Patrick given up probably 3 years of his career to give Patrick Dempsey those results. So, no, absolutely, it's fantastic and great to see Pat Long still being rewarded by the Porsche factory for that and running so close. So it's actually just under a lap, the gap between Jeff Siegel in the Ferrari and Pat Long in the Porsche. But interesting there, Pat Long only 14 pit stops. Versus the Seagal car is on 17, which is the most stops in the GTE AM category in the top 5 cars. So they've obviously had their issues or taken advantage of safety cars along the way to do things like brake changes and the clever stuff. Clearly the strategy's right because they're on it. They're way out there.
So that is the 97 Aston coming towards us, is that?
I think so, yep.
That's going to be Fernando Reis.
That car is the one for Aston that they're probably a little bit more disappointed in being as far back as it is. No, that is the 95.
That is the 95.
So that's the leading car with Nicky Thiem at the wheel.
So that is the Aston with Nicky Thiem at the wheel. They've just managed to catch up with and pass, I think, Scott Dixon in the Ford. So if that's true, then we've got ourselves 3 different cars in the top 3 positions because there'll be Ferrari, Ford. The gap was only 3.4 seconds between Dixon and Thiem.
Yeah, and they're just coming up to put a lap on Matt Griffin in the Ferrari 488 ahead of them, and Matt Griffin running 6th.
They're still 4th. Sorry, the Aston is still 4th.
It's still 4th, yeah. Matt Griffin is running 6th in the GTE AM class, and you know, big words for Matt in terms of the stints he's just put in. He's just put in a stint of personal best as they chase down the podium in GTE AM. him, Duncan Cameron and Aaron Scott, a fantastic driver pairing. Duncan's, it's always been his dream to be here. Many years of running with Matt, another one who's kind of coached in the same way as the Pat Long, Patrick Dempsey story. Matt's spent a long time coaching and nurturing Duncan Cameron and really turned him into the best gentleman driver out there in that field, I think.
Passing the Le Mans football stadium just off the side of Terre Rouge. Beautiful architecture we've got in these 8.4 miles. It's an incredible place. I decided to go for a bit of a wander last night, and Festival doesn't quite cover what the Le Mans 24 Hours is all about. It's a culture. It is a way of life. You've got so many different elements. And that was just me wandering around this end of the Le Mans circuit. I didn't even get up towards Terre Rouge, towards Mulsanne, towards Arnage. You know, there's so many different things going on around the course of the night. And I've heard some incredible stories over the years as to what goes on around the far sides of the circuit. But the whole community around these 8.4 miles goes Le Mans ballistic. It really is a vibe, not just a night.
Absolutely. Now, just looking at what's going on the screen, we've got that's Kazuki Nakajima, so now 7 seconds behind. So it's now 7 seconds covering the first three. Dumas falling back towards Nakajima now, 5 seconds behind Stefan Sarrazin. So this really is the big block, and this is the stint going through. The next car, I think, that's going to owe us a stop. There we go.
He's in.
He's in, which it should be the number 5.
It is. Good timing. Absolutely spot on. So he managed to catch the Porsche pretty consistently there, and that gives the vision to the fact that the Toyotas have still got plenty of juice left in the tank, and they've got something that can be charging, you know, after this one solitary Porsche that's still in the mix. There's your race leader, currently being bought by the Panis Barthez Oreca. The Panis Barthez Ligier.
Yeah. But I think that the key thing there is that Toyota has still got 2 bullets in the gun, so they can send somebody to really race the Porsche and try and break it, you know, and they've still got one in reserve. So if I was Porsche, I wouldn't be feeling particularly comfortable about being sandwiched between those 2 Toyotas now with, you know, 8 hours and 15 minutes left of the race.
They do say safety in numbers, don't they? And at Le Mans, it's even truer, because you've got so many factors working against you anyway. To know that you've got an incredibly fast Toyota in front of you and one behind you and closing in, you're a sitting target. There's nothing you can do.
Absolutely, and while that's very exciting, just seeing in the Pro class, the Scott Dixon and Nicky Thiem responding to one another. So Nicky Thiem only 5 seconds back in 4th position in the GTE Pro class on Scott Dixon. And both setting personal best fastest laps on the last lap.
It's
so
close.
3:52.6 for Scott Dixon and 3:53.2. You know, undoubtedly the Ford has got the pace of the Aston, but Nicky Thiem's consistency across a stint better than Dixon's, and he's just putting in the lap after lap after lap, plugging away, saving the time in traffic to get through. It's going to be an intriguing finish in the GTE Pro class. Still more than a full Le Mans Endurance Series or World Endurance Series race to go.
That's an IndyCar Series champion versus a Porsche Super Cup champion. It really is the world-class elite racing drivers out there in the field this year. It's one of the strongest grids I can remember in living history as to the talent that we've got out on the circuit. Despite that, Simon Dolan believed that the driving standards of the number 98 Aston Martin of Paul Dalla was not acceptable, and something needed to be done about it.
We don't know that it was Dalla Lana. So.
Well, we know that it's the 98 because the incident involving 38 and 98 is now under investigation. And on top of that, to compound the misery and woe for the 98 Aston Martin, they've also been instructed to report to the stewards for their speed at the pit entry.
Yeah, I did see that one as he came in. It was a big lock-up as he came past us. So I suspect he probably broke the beam, but they can't really do him for it. They can't prove that he was going that quickly across there. That message on 38, 98, it will be because they're investigating, because I'm sure Simon Dolan has been stood in Eduardo Freitas' office saying, talk to me. So
that's a big one for the Corvette. That's a massive, massive shunt. Now, that's going to be a safety car because the barriers are well and truly demolished. So even though Tommy Milner might be able to get that car started again, and I don't think even that's likely, that's on the way through the Dunlop curves.
We've seen this so often now over that bump just as you enter the braking area, really unsettling the car, and that was a big hit.
Jeepers.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine. He'll be able to bring that car back.
That's right.
It's just the way he glanced the wall. You know, he hit it at just the wrong angle. It's done an awful lot of damage. I suspect we will see that car out. He will try and bring it back to the pits if there's any possibility whatsoever. But interesting talking to Dan Binks in the Pratt & Miller team that run those cars on Wednesday, and one little snippet from Dan of you know, the experience that used to be there within that team, not necessarily there now. You know, it's the new young generation. They've got to learn, but they've got some superstars in other cars. So Johnny O'Connell in the AAI Corvette, and you know, Johnny's been here, done it, won it. And you know, they're trying to bring up those younger drivers now, so that they've got the next generation. But mistakes like this, yeah, over the bump, just drop the car. It's exactly what we saw the WeatherTech Porsche do last night.
Such a shame, because the Corvette is already struggling to run with the Ferraris, Fords, Porsches, Aston Martins, and
let's not forget they won last year.
They did.
So the car is.
Here it is again, over the bump. Car snaps away.
Just dropped the car over the bump, and it's so easily done. I think he was probably braking a little bit late, and as he at the car on board now, just watch it. It goes over that bump and gone. He did brake too late there. You know, normally you're just starting to trail brake from the apex of the right-hander and settle the car as it goes over the bump, and he just went probably 5 yards too far before going on the brakes. So interesting there, the shot of the Corvette. The steering wheel comes up and out of the way to allow the driver to get out. I think that Dan Binks has made the call to call it a day for that car, and they're not going to try and get it back. If he goes more than 5 meters from the car, that's it, over. So yeah, that's it. It's done.
That's such a shame. Game over.
They'll cover that with a slow zone, I would suggest. We've got a double waved yellow at the moment, but I think they'll throw a slow zone to allow them to go and recover that car with one of the Manitous.
Oliver Gavin has just realised his Le Mans 24 Hours is over, and that's a real shame. That leaves just one left, and it's 9th at the moment with Jan Magnussen, father of the Formula One superstar Kevin Magnussen, at the wheel. Jan Magnussen, who's won the Le Mans 24 Hours in the GTE category so many times already.
It's strange how that one's flipped round, isn't it? It's normally son of, but now we all talk of it as father of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which maybe says something about the timing of their careers. But
it's interesting because we all expected Jan Magnussen to be the superstar Danish wonder kid in Formula One, and it never really happened for one reason or another. And now it's Kevin who's been able to take up exactly the same role at pretty much exactly the same time in his career, actually. It's quite funny. Tommy Milner is able to laugh about it, at least.
He's got the cameraman with the shots there, so he's going to be shown his accident frame by frame by the looks of it.
Can you show me what happened? Well,
you braked far too late over a bump, and you lost the back end of the car, Tommy.
Well, into the pits comes the number 6 Toyota and the number 2 Porsche together on the same lap. They've both pitted together, so this is going to be interesting because we're going to have a real race between the Toyota and Porsche crews in real time, just a few feet away from each other. Here we go again. Tommy Milner snaps it. Bang! Game over. And that is how quickly your Le Mans 24 Hours can end.
What's interesting there is the number 2 car is now off schedule. So number 2 gave us a stop at lap 241. So they've only gone 10 laps on that stint. I suspect this is a balance change. It would be interesting if Anthony can get in there and talk to somebody at Porsche and find out why that was only a 10-lap stint. It might be reacting to the slow zone.
That's a good point, actually. Romain Dumas out, Neil Jani in, the man who set our pole position time on Wednesday. And that's the third Toyota, the third car in the mix. The second Toyota, no, sorry, that is the first Toyota leaving the pit lane. Sarrazin is still in the car, so that is at least his 3rd stint, possibly his 4th, Giles.
Pass. I didn't have any notes from that, so it's...
I think that's his third.
Definitely his third, and it could well be his fourth.
Oh,
They're putting oil into. No, putting oil in. They've got to do it at some stage. So away the car goes. That's normal. We've got a pressurised oil system to be able to feed the engine. Just go on with a bottle with a dry brake coupling, and they'll add a set quantity of time of oil, which will dictate the quantity that goes in. So now being released into the slow zone, so the car won't accelerate as normal. They'll crawl up the hill. Don't worry, that's not an issue with the car.
And Kazuki Nakajima just moved into second place. Toyota 1 and 2 now.
Yeah, absolutely. On 18, 19 and 20 pit stops each.
Could that be the finishing order of this race? It's possible, isn't it?
It's very possible. You know, Toyota would love that to be Toyota, Porsche, but there's a long way to go. I don't think Porsche aren't going to settle for third.
No, and who have they just put into the car? Neil Jani. So he doesn't do things by halves, Neil Jani. He is going to absolutely moss it all the way through this race.
That's his first time back in the car since about midnight last night. So he's running on a similar shift pattern to us. As we were leaving last night, he was getting out that car. So he's had 6 hours off. The other guys have done their doubles or triple, quadruple stints, actually, it will be. Through the night, and now they're ready to go.
So down in the pits, Anthony, who have you got for it?
Yeah, Oliver Gavin is next to me. So Oliver, what is your feeling about the crash? I mean, is it a mistake from Tommy?
Well, I think that he might have got in a bit hard into turn one, and maybe had a little bit of rear locking. I'd had a little bit of that. We'd also just made a little bit of a chassis and aero change, and that might have just caught him out a little. And you know, we're racing hard, and we're pushing, and we're trying to make up time, and we've been pushing all race, trying to keep with everyone else in our class. And you know, it's racing here can be extremely unforgiving. I've seen some really horrible accidents here, but it's part of the challenge. It's part of what we do. Just what it does show is that Tommy's been able to walk away, which just shows the strength of the C7R and the work that everybody does here at Corvette Racing to think about the driver's safety. It's one of the reasons why I want to drive for this team, is because they really do think about and care for their drivers, and I'm just so pleased that Tommy's been able to walk away from this one. It's a great shame we're out of the race, and it's the end of our day. But the focus will now shift onto the 63 car and try to get the best possible result for them.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, Oliver Gavin talking there very deeply about safety, and it's quite relevant really, because in recent years we've had some pretty nasty shocks in the world of motor racing, and he said, there have been some pretty big accidents here, and Oliver Gavin was one of the closest friends of the late great Justin Wilson, who has been here before. So you've got to think about safety, and one thing he can say with a lot of conviction about the Chevrolet Corvette team is that they really do, as he said, look after their drivers. They are very safety conscious.
Yeah, I mean, those guys have developed all sorts of systems to give them the maximum safety within the car as drivers. So they've got a satellite system within the car that they're looking at. It's a radar system looking at who's around them, and that gives them different colours for the different classes that are approaching. So they can see that they've got an LMP1 car approaching on the right-hand side, and it gives them audible warnings as well. So they've spent a long time developing that car to be as safe as it can possibly be, but ultimately a very, very quick car, and pretty gutting for the defending champions to go out in that way. But we heard them saying exactly what we'd seen, a mistake over the bump, gone in too hot, and around the car went. But it is a 24-hour sprint race in GTE Pro, so that's what we kind of expect.
Jason Turner on Twitter. Hello from Boston. Do drivers need a special license, a bit like a super license in Formula One? Doesn't quite work the same way in Le Mans.
No, absolutely, it doesn't work quite the same way. So these guys have their international racing license, and they have to pass a test, a simulator test, whereby they go through all of the procedures that they carry out that are unique to Le Mans. So the slow zones and the safety cars, the 3 safety cars we see deployed, they go there to one of the nominated centres, run through that programme, get a stamp to say, right, you're good to go. They then can come and do the test day. So coming to do the test day, which is a fortnight before the race, they've got to then do 10 laps at the test day to qualify for race week, and having done their 10 laps at test day to qualify for race week, they've then got to do 5 night laps during race week as an absolute minimum to be allowed to enter the race. So that's kind of the process to be able to be here. That and probably £1 million.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, I was wondering, you do need to remember the £1 million bit.
Yeah, unless you're extremely talented. But you know, the only drivers that aren't forced to be here 2 weeks before to do the test, platinum drivers can apply for an exception. They're not necessarily given the exception, but they can apply to not come. And we had a couple of people do that while there was an IndyCar race going on a couple of weeks ago.
Anthony Drevet is down in the pits, and he's at Porsche.
Indeed, I'm in the pits next to Romain Dumas, who is just back from his stint. A relatively short stint, Romain, so can you explain that?
Well, actually, unfortunately, we had a puncture with Marc Lieb 2 hours ago. And so Neil was not ready. And so Marc has to continue. We put again a new set. But he was nearly driving, you know, too much driving time. So and I'm the only one who is able to jump on his seat without losing time. So it's why we swapped with Neil. I kept the tires of Marc Lieb, who were already to stint, jump on the car, and we didn't lose time in the pit, and I was able to continue the, the story. And now that it was a big repair with the wall, we take the opportunity finally to change the tires because they were 3.5 stint, so it was time to change, but it was okay, it was cool.
And when you're not really prepared for getting in the car, is it something special for you as a driver? I mean, when you're not really ready to take the wheel?
No, I was not at all. I was in bed because Marc drove just after me. So I went to bed and they came and said, hey, wake up. Yeah, you have to go back. So now I hope I will sleep.
That's why I saw you were pretty sleepy. Thank you very much. And about the strategy for the end of the race, do you have a clue about the strategy?
Well, so far we have always small delay, you know, like the puncture, like the wheel nuts, like we try, but they are quick, but it's still 8 hours to go.
Thank you very much.
I was asleep. That's the best excuse I've heard from a racing driver. I was asleep. Yeah. I wonder how long that's going to last. As an excuse in terms of validity.
Interesting to see that Porsche having those issues. We thought that it would be them responding to the slow zone, taking the opportunity on that 10-lap shorter stint to get the stop done. It makes absolute sense while there's a slow zone out there to get into the pits and minimise your net loss. But yeah, not like them to be not quite with it. You know, normally your next driver is ready in the garage, stood there throughout the stints in case there's an issue with the driver that's got into the car. As a team manager, you're there trying to manage that all the time. You're aware that the drivers need sleep, but equally, you can have someone get ill while they're in the car. So yeah, not a surprising one there from Porsche. So we're coming through the slow zone now, and we'll get released when we pass this green light. No, there'll be a white line on the exit to the slow zone.
Well, it looked as though they were pretty quick on the uptake.
Just didn't react, really, did it? Not in the same way as the LMP2 car did. You know, those two cars on pace would accelerate in a very similar way.
You could argue that's an LMP2 car in front of it, and the class is different. But then we've already made the point that the LMP2 doesn't really get away from the GTE Pro and acceleration that well.
No, absolutely. You know, the GTE cars in a straight line are every bit as quick as the LMP2s. So it's very interesting to see how those passes get made as we see the number 2 Porsche. I think that's the number 2 coming past. Some nice shots from the pits of some female mechanics working through. The Ganassi guys, interesting, they've got an awful lot of female mechanics on those teams, so it's not just female racing drivers, lots of technicians, engineers, and of course Lena Gade, the engineer on Audi number 7.
Yep, trendsetter, I think. Well, Lena Gade inspired a lot of people in 2011 with that crushing victory on the 3 Peugeots. I'm reminded about that one as well by Pinky. I was talking about safety in numbers. He said it's not always true. Le Mans 2011 proves the point. Very good point indeed. Audi, they were able to cut the mustard with the French trio. And when you've got Lena Gade in your arsenal, you've got a good chance.
Yeah, the very different set of circumstances, really. These guys now have the opportunity to go and try and break the car. And when we've had a season of reliability issues, it is different. You know, the Toyotas have the choice to go and send one car. I don't think we'll see that happen for at least a couple of hours, but in a couple of hours' time, I wouldn't be surprised to see them turn around and say, right, let's send him up the road. Let's see if we can break them. And you might see the Porsche number 2 and either the 5 or the 6 really go for it and see what happens. You know, they are here for a World Championship crown. This is a double points round, so you don't want to lose that, but equally, this is Le Mans. This is the one. This is the headlines.
Yeah.
Is a victory at Le Mans worth more than the World Endurance Championship victory?
I think it is still.
Probably.
I think it is still. As much as the World Endurance Championship would like us to say, it's very much similar sort of trophy. No. Le Mans 24 Hours, that's the one everybody talks about. That's the one everybody wants to win. And that's the one that's going to get your car sales sorted. Well, he's going to have a bit of an embarrassment when he watches the footage back later. I can't believe you caught me with my mouth open and everything.
Absolutely.
That Ford, though, that's going to be a car that's going to be...
The Gulf Racing boys. Sorry, they are nuts. They're absolutely crazy. Based in Milton Keynes, and those guys, a group of individuals and characters.
That's what you love, though. You love a team to show their character. I mean, this is a very human sport, perhaps more than in other forms of motor racing. I mean, when would you see clowning around like that in a Formula One pit? When it rains and floods. Other than that,
they'd get fired if they got caught on television doing that.
Exactly. You know, at Le Mans, that's just keeping you awake. That's keeping the spirits up.
It's all part of it, absolutely. And in fairness to the Gulf Racing guys, they're having a fantastic run. The number 86 Porsche in the GTE Am class. Mike Wainwright, the amateur driver on board, currently running 5th in class. And they're only 3 laps back on the class leader, so still all to play for, and they're still chasing a podium.
And they've got a very good chance of getting there as well. I'm not saying that the 3 Ferraris and the other Porsche in front of them are likely to break down, but this is GTE Am, and the attrition rate tends to strike in this last quarter of the race in GTE Am quite harshly. So there's an opportunity there for the Gulf Racing machine. I love being on board with this Ford GT. Let's listen. That's the sound of a thoroughbred racing car.
Yeah, the V6 turbocharged Ford EcoBoost engine sounds absolutely amazing as they go down the Mulsanne straight, as he changes up into top gear there.
Well, it looks and sounds the part, doesn't it? I mean, we're all 9-year-old boys to a certain extent in our mind. We love these pin-up cars, and that Ford is going to be a pin-up for a long, long time. It's the new generation of poster car.
Yeah, you know, the start of their 2-year program, which I'm sure will be extended after the end of 2017 when Ford see the value that they get out of the World Endurance Championship and their program in America. But yeah, the guaranteed 2-year program for that Ford GT, and nice to actually see one of the road cars here. It's one of the few cars that has been allowed to race before the road car was produced. There are other manufacturers who have asked for waivers in the GTE class that aren't here. But ultimately, that car is based on the Ford GT road car. The Ford GT road car, I believe, will be on sale before the end of the year. Don't know how many they're going to sell, but all the other manufacturers agreeing to bring Ford back. They were willing to sign off this waiver to get it in early. So I think everybody wanted to see the 50th anniversary of the 66 Le Mans Ford GT Le Mans victory.
And that decision is paying them back in spades. The attention that is being given on this race from Ford fans, from motor racing fans in general. This is what put the Chevrolet Corvette out of the race about half an hour ago. Bang! Wallop! Game over.
It was a big impact, wasn't it? Tommy, well, lucky that it glanced as it did. He would have liked to have gone about 10 yards to the right and glanced up the barrier. He might still be in the race.
Au revoir, monsieur. Unfortunately for Tommy Milner, his race and the entire 64 crew are out. The 63 crew are still very much in it, though. They are running in 8th position at the moment, trying to close up on Johnny Adam in the Aston Martin number 97. The gap between Jan Magnussen in the 63 Corvette and the race leader is still only 3 laps, considering that they're in 8th place. 3 laps is not much with 8 hours to go. They've got a chance. You never know. Anything can happen, and they've still got a good chance of a podium.
Absolutely. The Manitou trying to rebuild the tyre stack that Tommy Milner knocked down. They won't release that. So, the number 35 Alpine, that's David Cheng at the wheel.
Is it Cheng? It's Panciatici.
Panciatici at the wheel.
Wow.
He's gone in hard.
That's a surprise that it's Nelson Panciatici.
He'll be able to get that car reversed back and out of the wall.
Whether he'll be able to drive it anywhere afterwards, that's the big...
Is that the exit of Tertre Rouge? So
I think it is, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 10 and 11.
Oh no, it's one of the chicanes.
It's the first chicane, so he's dropped it on the way into the first chicane.
Oh, the car's really loose, really loose.
He's hit the wall on the outside. He's gone straight on and across.
The car won't turn. The car won't turn.
That was because he was locked up, I think.
Oh, Nelson. That could so easily have been avoided.
I think he locked up and probably, well, if there was a failure, it would have been caused by hitting the curb with lock-on.
But he hit that at a very high speed, considering he was still slowing down. It went straight across the chicane, and the car wouldn't slow down, it wouldn't turn. I think this might be game over as well.
Yeah, I suspect with how hard that has hit that wall, it may have done a bit of tub damage. So the suspension mounts are glued into the side of the tub.
The chassis could well be destroyed underneath.
Yeah, there's a chance that it will have damaged those pickup points. If it hasn't, I know that those guys have got corners built up ready to put on, a new nose, a new corner, and on its way. But once he's got that car back, which he can do, he can drive it back from there.
Well, for the moment, that will promote Kirill Ladygin in the SMP. You can see, look, the tyre marks across the gravel, and then on the track.
That's why the car wasn't turning. The tyre tracks the whole way. If he'd come off the brakes and released, he probably would have got that in. Either that or the car would have gyrated and maybe tacked the wall with the back. But,
here we go again. Let's listen. Too late on the brakes.
No, there was some rear locking going on there as he was coming down the gearbox. You could see the car started to move from the back. I think he wasn't expecting that. Braking at about the right point, but just as he was coming down the box, the back moving and straight to the scene of the accident.
And he's a frustrated man. You could see him gesticulating to the marshals.
Yeah, I think they're going to need to get him a pull out of the wall because he's gone into that loose shale on the outside there.
The speed he hit the wall. The speed he hit the wall, though, the damage he's created, and the force. I can't see them getting that car back out.
Would you have said that when Mike Rockefeller hit the Audi in 2007?
Good point. Good point.
These cars are very, very
taken
strong.
Well. Yeah, good point. Well taken.
You'd be very surprised how strong these cars are. Just going to ride on board again, or is this the sister car?
This is the sister car. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that either, and Audi pulled it off.
Yeah.
I mean, I know these guys aren't Audi,
damage, then they can do it. All the teams have complete suspension corners built up, ready to drop on. They're set up exactly as the car was at the start of the race, so they can just literally unbolt the corner and put the new corner on.
Anthony Dreve down in the pits.
Speaking about crashes, obviously we've seen the Alpine, and we've seen as well Tommy Milner. We are very happy that you are safe and very in shape, really. So what exactly happened?
Well, I lost the rear of the car going into one and couldn't get it back. Just thankful to be in this Corvette. You know, we've seen some really big accidents over the years here, and drivers always walking away. So feel very fortunate that I'm in a very safe car, but really feel bad for the guys. I mean, didn't have the fastest car, but you know, it's always a challenge to finish a race here at Le Mans, and you know, who knows what'll happen for the rest of the race. So I just got a little bit too fast into one, I guess. There we had just taken some wing out of the car, but I don't know. So it's a bit bumpy in one. I just made a mistake, really. It's just what it comes down to. So I just feel bad from all my crew guys, and a lot of work for them before they can all finish packing up and stuff like that. But still have our teammates in the race. The 63 car, they're going pretty well. So just got to keep your nose clean for this race, man. And you know, we've done that in the past, but not this year.
It's not the first time we see crashes in the morning, so maybe the temperatures as well can have an importance.
Yeah, I mean, I think in our case we had just made some setup changes there to try and find some more speed, and just went a little bit too far probably.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Nelson Panciatici shouting at the marshals, put the car down on the floor, put it down.
He and I are gesticulating in exactly the same way. He needed to be put down on not the shale. He needed to be put down about 10 yards further up to be able to get that car moving. He's going to try and get it going, but I suspect he's going to have no traction on that shale they've put him down on, and therefore he's not going to be able to get the car back on. I would hope they'll move him forward. He's still in a place of safety. He's still behind that wall. You know, there's no reason to not put him down further up. So Marshall's ripping bits off for him, which is what he'll have wanted.
Nelson slams the door shut. Well, fine, if you're not going to help me, bang.
Yeah,
That's a very, very frustrated Frenchman, and totally understanding that one. But look at the wheel. Look, it's up in the air.
It is, but had he been put down slightly further up,
he's not going to be able to get out of that. They've really not helped him there at all.
No, absolutely. He needed to be put down 10 yards further up. You can see the flat spot on the tyre there, though. Oh, that's a corker. They're going to...
Well, they think he's out of the race, don't they?
He
They
stayed
clearly...
in the car, and he can bring that car forwards. But it's very strange to see that they're choosing to end his race.
Anthony Drevet tells us it's very reminiscent of an Audi incident a few years ago. Benoit Trelieu, I think it was. I think he's right. Very similarly, but yeah.
The Marshall's doing their absolute best. These guys
They've
are
done what
here
they feel is right.
And they do have to use their judgment in each case. And if you're looking at that car, you would say, no, that car's not going anywhere.
But then they're not mechanics. They're not thinking
absolutely.
in the mindset of a team mechanic.
He just needs the opportunity to try and get that car going. The ignition is on. I suspect the engine is actually running. But he will not be able to get traction from where he is to drive that car forward onto the track.
Nelson needs to open the door, calm down, talk to one of the marshals and say, look, do you think you could just pick the car up again and move me back onto a better tarmac? Could you please just give me a chance here? You may not think this car can be fixed, but look at these guys. Give me a shot. These guys will be a superhuman force to get me back out on that pits. And look, the team are just so frustrated. They're probably going through exactly the same emotions as Nelson is in the car. These guys can do wonders with these cars. I've seen tubs that would probably not have turned in another lap if you'd have thought about it. And then they've been repaired in about 40 minutes, gone back out and taken a fairly decent top 10 finish in a motor race. So I can see where the frustration has crept in there at the backseat DC Racing Alpine squad. But the number 25 is in the wars. 35, sorry, is in the wars at the side of the track. The car is slipping down the order to what is now 6th position. The Ladygin SMP racing car is up to 4th. The Stracker is up to 5th. Panciatici at the side of the circuit, gesticulating wildly. Put me down on the ground, not on the shale.
The thing that you can't forget is that they're here for a World Championship. You know, they're chasing a World Championship points, double points here. So a retirement here is massive. You spend the rest of the year chasing it. You're on the back foot from there. So if he can just get out and scoop up 2, 5, 10, 15 points, that's massive for him.
Especially when we got so long to go, 7 hours and 45
the P2
minutes.
class, which is so competitive this year.
We've got, you know, a whole WEC race plus an hour and 45 minutes, a Grand Prix distance then effectively to go. Anything can happen in that time. From Nelson Panciatici's point of view, this isn't over yet. If he can get it home, it's not over yet.
No, so, well, let's see how that one develops. Back to the race at the front. 24 seconds separating Stefan Sarrazin, Kazuki Nakajima,
no, he's giving it up.
And the Porsche number 2. You can see how broken he is. He's going to get out. If he doesn't...
Oh, toolkit.
No, yeah, as long as he doesn't go more than 5... No, that's the steering wheel. No, it's not. It is... You can't go more than 5 metres from the car.
Well,
otherwise it's a retirement. He's got the toolkit out.
Good boy,
Nelson. He's
Nelson.
going to have a look at it. He's going to see what he can do. Some sleeping people around the...
yes, it's you we're watching. Yes, it's you.
She doesn't want to look up and see herself on the big screen.
Yes, it's you we're watching.
So Nelson now... What's he doing? What's Nelson doing? He's going to try and take the whole nose section off.
Now, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea, because they've got a spare nose in the garage. And thinking about it, that's sensible, because a lot of the problem is going to be in that nose section. So if he can detach the nose from the rest of the tub and drive it home very, very slowly, he might be all right. Oh, fire!
Bicollars has finally expired. Let go. We saw fire earlier in the week, but that's an oil fire from a turbo.
No.
So, yeah, they
Simon
need to
Tremere.
get to that. Simon is now
Get out,
bailing out.
get out, get out. Your car's on fire. Get the extinguishers quick.
Yeah, he hasn't pulled over nearer. This car seems to be on fire every time we see it.
Yeah.
They've struggled. Simon grabbing an extinguisher himself. He's going to go and put the fire out. Just smack the marshal with the extinguisher. But Simon's a lovely guy. He's the nicest guy you could possibly meet. He's just so calm and collected and considered, and he feels so privileged to be racing in the LMP class. But they've got that fire out. Simon now trying to go in the other side. And I think he's going to try and at least bring it back. That's in the Porsche curves. He's not got that far to go.
No. Well, the Bicol is in flames at the side of the circuit. Anthony Drevet is in the pits.
Yes, indeed. With Nick Leventis for a quick update from the Straka Racing team, because we didn't speak about you from the start of the race. So how is it going at the moment?
Yeah, it's going really well. We've been running our own race. A little bit behind the Oricas on pace, but we're still there. And yeah, we're feeling confident. The car feels good. So we'll just keep plugging away.
So Johnny took the wheel after your stint. How was your stint?
Yeah, good. Really good. The car's come back to us, really. When the track temperature was a little bit higher, we lost the balance a bit, but through the night and this morning, it feels really good. So fingers crossed, there's still a long way to go, but we'll just keep chipping away and hopefully come home with a good result.
So at the moment, we are in the top 5, I think, in the P2 category. You are 2 laps down. But yeah, everything is possible.
Absolutely, anything is possible. And like I say, we've seen so much happen in this race. We've just got to keep chipping away and see where we end at 3 o'clock today.
Thank you very much.
Well, the attrition rate's really starting to kick in now at Le Mans, isn't it? Because we are starting to see cars at the scenery dropping like flies, and that's quite commonplace at this stage in the race. They've survived the night. They've done pretty good so far. It's been a very clean Le Mans 24 hours by all rights. But on this particular occasion, Bicolors has once again done everything they can, worked hard, tooth and nail, but the CLM is not going to give them anything this time.
No, did look like some kind of turbo failure or something like that. So, you know, if he can bring it back, there is a chance. Didn't like it had thrown a rod out of bed or done anything too serious. I think Simon's giving up, though. Does look like he's saying enough's enough.
Do you know what? We've tried so hard.
Yeah. And
this car's on fire all the ruddy time.
Simon's a lovely guy, paying for his racing in that car, having done GP2. He's been there, he's done that. You know, he is extremely quick driver, but he's chosen to say, right, you know what, I want to go and do this. But he wanted to do it in the top class, so yeah,
Whoops.
shame.
Recovery there from Paul Dalla Lana in the Aston Martin once again. A bit of a slip up there at the Dunlop curves. At Gearhead Fred on Twitter, are there any restrictions as to how many or what kinds of spare parts? Oops, that's why he's gone off there. He tried to
LMP2 cars.
He tried to pick a fight with the Extreme Speed Ligier. What was he doing? In
fairness to Paul, there wasn't really much he could do about that. It was side-to-side contact on a P2 car that had come up his inside. He thought, I would think, that the car was going the other side of him.
Okay.
But I think Paul 50-50 there. Let's not throw that one Paul's way.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I'm willing to concede on that one. Are there any restrictions as to how many or what kinds of spare parts the LMP1, 2, GT Pro-Am teams can bring for Le Mans 24? Well, Giles, this is your kind of question.
Yeah, I mean, they're restricted in terms of numbers of engines, numbers of chassis, gearbox components, internals. They're not. You know, they can get on with that, but they're not allowed to change casings. So, yeah, you will take a penalty depending on what you do. We saw that with KCMG. Were given dispensation to change the tub, didn't have to go to the back of the grid. There were others that took a 5-minute penalty for changing an engine. Those guys not full-time WEC competitors. The WEC guys get 4 engines for the season, so they're normally throwing one of their engines away at the end of Le Mans. Where the other engines will then cycle through the season. So one is their Le Mans engine. They might choose to use those differently during the week, so they might actually run an older engine on Wednesday night and then change it on Thursday. The GTE guys, certainly that's what all of those guys were doing. And with the way the weather fell, they all changed engines. Most of them changed their engine for Thursday's running to put their race gear in. In terms of other spares and consumables, drive shafts, uprights, front corners, bodywork, no limits there. And here at Le Mans, no limits on the number of tyres they can use, so they can run as many tyres as they like. Normally in a WEC race, we're looking at 6 sets of tyres per car.
That's how close the Le Mans 24-hour is. Toyotas 14 seconds apart, with Neil Jani in the Porsche only another 8.3 down the road. I can't believe how close it is. I've seen some close races at the Le Mans 24 hours. At this rate of adrenaline, at this rate, we're going to be as close in the battle as we were in 1969, when there was only about 150 meters between the race-winning Ford and the Porsche right on the tail. So that is how this race could go. I mean, that was the closest finish of all time. As into the pits comes the #1 Porsche once again, which is now the guinea pig for the #2, which could still win this race, don't forget.
That felt like a short stint for #1 as well. I've not been tracking #1 stint lengths because they're so far down the order, unfortunately.
Slow zones taking advantage?
Yeah, could well be, but they've done that on the last rotation, so yeah, seems strange, but maybe trying something on a setup change that they can learn and help the #2 with. Then, you know, ultimately they can just hone the setup and then transfer it across. Toyota mechanics all getting a warm-up in the garage. Wake me up, come on, let's go guys. And yeah,
that's a YouTube video waiting to be made, isn't it? I know that's a serious process that the Toyota boys are doing there, and but you just know somebody is going to take that piece of footage, probably probably slow-mo it and put a dance track underneath it. That's going to be on YouTube tomorrow. But they're doing some serious work. I mean, this is how intense the training regime is, not just for the drivers, but for the mechanics. You've got to be in tip-top shape because you never know when something's going to break. You never know when something is going to fail on the car, and you have got to be on it like a car bonnet.
Yeah, no, completely. Those guys are so fit. You know, the wheel changer in particular in the pit stops has to be so fit. He's running around that car with a wheel gun that's relatively heavy, and the guy that's feeding him the wheels is just as important. So no, it's interesting to see them being woken up at this time in the morning. They don't do that before every pit stop, I can assure you of that. So just looking at some of the times that are getting pumped in now, the battle in GTE Pro rages on between Scott Dixon and Nicky Thiem in the Aston Martin. So Scott Dixon's pumping in personal best sector times to try and open that gap up. That gap up to sort of 1.5 minutes now. Oh, Rebellion off. No, not
that's
Rebellion.
That's the Thierry by TDS.
Keep doing this to me with Rebellion on the side.
That's the second. That's the second place car in LMP2.
The nose is missing.
That's gone in hard. Is that Mulsanne? Yeah, it is. Mulsanne. Now, this one's definitely worth a replay because...
But what's strange is the nose is missing, which, again, you would suggest that the car's turned round on the brakes.
Let's have a look.
I think he's going to arrive sideways in this shot.
Whoa! Yep. Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. It's almost as if he's lost that. Under braking through the kink.
Everybody seems to be dropping it on the brakes this morning. You know, that's the third incident we've seen in 40 minutes of a car dropping it under braking.
And who's that?
And there's another car.
That's one of the Extreme Speed Ligiers. Well, Evelyn on Twitter has said, Jake, you've jinxed them when you said that the race has been pretty clean so far. I apologise, because they are just dropping out all over the place now.
It is strange how they're all dropping it under braking. I don't know whether that's something that's going on with the circuit in terms of grip, whether they're all just getting caught out, or whether that's tiredness starting to set in.
Could well be. That's Ed Brown in the car at the moment. Daytona 24 Hours winner, of course.
Yeah, those guys have done a fantastic job so far this year, and strange to see Ed making a mistake like that. He's been pretty solid, as the result at Daytona suggests.
Into the pits comes the Dempsey Proton Porsche. Jason Turner, don't forget about the Alpine. What's going on with it? It's a good point, actually. I wonder how Nelson Panciotici's repair work is going on at the moment. Now, well, he's still there at the side of the road, I can tell you. He hasn't moved yet. The car has slipped behind the 41 Ligier. That's the Greaves car of Memo Rojas is in the car at the moment. Safety car.
Not surprising.
There's a lot of cars all over the place, especially with that debris down at Mulsanne.
Exactly, and I think that they want to take the opportunity to have a good look at the circuit and just make sure that all the braking zones are clean, make sure that as much gravel is swept away as possible, just to prevent any more incidents. I'd like to see from onboard, if we can,
yeah, definitely,
the incident there for the number 46 Pierre Thirier car. Pierre is, he may be his name above the door, but he's a fantastic, very, very fast and well-respected driver. It will be interesting to see whether that was something else going on, because the nose had gone by the time he came into shot, which is what I suspected. I think he's hit the nose on the inside barrier under braking, so as he's gone through the kink, and he's then arrived sideways in our shot. But it'll be interesting just to see whether all 4 tyres are inflated, for example.
You're absolutely right. I think that's exactly what's happened. He's gone through the kink, hit the brakes, the car snapped away, either a drop in tyre pressure because of a slow puncture developing or something along those lines, maybe brake failure. But, yep, the car came in pirouetting very gracefully through our shot as we looked up the Mulsanne. Here it is again, look. That suggests to me exactly what you said, Giles.
All 4 tyres are inflated, so I think it is just driver error, but let's see. He'll get it back. Yep, all 4 tyres definitely still inflated.
Well, that's going to be easier to get back to the pits than it is for Nelson Panciatici to get back.
That really only needs a nose. There's been no suspension contact, I don't think, with the wall, so it's been a glancing blow along the guardrail.
And Ed Brown, that just looks like he's gone off, so I think he's going to get back to the pits as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What will be interesting to see is whether there's any Armco damage, where the number 46 Pierre Thirier driven Orica has gone into the guardrail on the inside.
That could be the very reason we're under safety car.
We've got the safety car, exactly. Yeah, if there's any guardrail damage, then they'll want to get that piece of guardrail changed to make sure that all the drivers are safe. We'll see. We're just coming through Tertre Rouge now. We're following the AAI Corvette on that onboard shot. That car still running 11th in the GTE AM category with Johnny O'Connell at the wheel, the ex-factory Corvette driver. Some 21 laps down on the class leader, so those guys have obviously had some trouble through the night. We saw the car in the gravel trap early on in the race.
Here they come, they're all pitting in. The Beechstein Aston is in, the number 12 Rebellion is in, the leading LMP2 car, the 36 Signatech Alpine car of Stefan Richelmi is in the pits. So too Pippo Durrani in the second of the extreme speed Ligiers. Here's Toyota.
Safety car B. You should catch safety car B.
Yep, so the 3 safety cars that are deployed around the circuit, those guys coming on at the end of the pit lane, Mulsanne corner, and then down at Arnage.
Is that safety car number 4 of this race? I think it's only the 4th time. Because there was one during the 6 hours we weren't on. I know that for a fact.
Then there were, yeah.
So I think it's only been 4. Into the pits comes the Signatech Alpine. So they're going to take, that's the leading car. René Rast has just moved up into 2nd position, and they're 2 laps adrift.
I suspect this is brakes. This is just get it back into the garage. Give it a proper service. This is a prime opportunity to make sure the car is as good as it can be. They're going back.
Absolutely.
On.
I mean, they could do this and get it back out and still retain the lead, to be honest, because I suppose that is a good idea, playing safe, especially when you saw what happened to Nelson Panciatici.
Some oil going in. Just taking the opportunity to give the car a thorough check over, and yeah, absolutely the right thing to do. Absolutely.
Why on earth wouldn't you? Why on earth wouldn't you? Because if you do that,
they're not doing brakes. I thought that they would have been, with 8 hours to go, kind of splitting the race up into thirds, taking pads, but maybe they've only got to change once and they can already get to the end with what's on there.
Well, this is an opportunity to try and answer some of your tweets, because not much is going to happen while we're behind safety car, of course. Jay Cutner on Twitter. What do the cranes hook onto to lift the cars in the air? Good question.
Okay, so each of the cars has got a steel boss, either bonded into the monocoque or Thirier on his way back.
Yep.
Either bonded into the monocoque or welded onto the roll cage, and it's literally just a tube of metal, and they put a pin through that tube of metal, which has got little ball bearings that expand on the end of it. In it goes, and they just pick the thing up on the Manitou. So it's a really, really simple system, just 2 holes in the roof, and these little tubes either bonded in or welded to the roll cage.
Fair enough. We've also got Chris Arnott at wing_nut13. Did the ESM car hop into the wall? Looking at the gravel makes me wonder. We're not sure it did, Chris. We don't think it did.
Just got it stopped, just.
So it was very close.
Certainly no frontal damage whatsoever.
Yeah, it was very close. Look, you can see the tyre marks of the Thirier by TDS car. You can see where it's spun and it's pirouetted at high speed. And that is that still
CLM
the Bicoles?
Still getting a little warm.
Goodness me. That was put out, like, what, 10 minutes ago?
They might as well install a fire hydrant system on that thing.
An inbuilt sprinkler
I
system.
don't think it needs it. It's forever on fire.
I don't mean to be harsh to the Vicolas team. They are all an incredible bunch of people, and they put in a huge amount of effort into this very special machine, the CLM. It's a good piece of kit, really. But unfortunately, Le Mans really does seem to show its weaknesses in every single area. It's not bad in the World Endurance Championship. It holds its own quite well for 6 hours, but not for 24. That's crucial.
I think the thing is, it's a very different car to the car they last ran at Spa. They brought a complete host of upgrades. They didn't even run at the test. So 7-speed gearbox from a 6-speed, a complete new set of bodywork, some engine upgrades. So the thing is just a completely different animal to the one that they were running at Silverstone and Spa, and untested. We saw the problems that they had on Wednesday night when the car caught fire for the first time. With an issue with the fuel system, and yeah, the guys really have struggled throughout, but it's been on fire many times before.
7.5 hours to go. Your P2, the Ferrari is just ahead of you, and you're just about halfway on the stint. We'll probably be able to stretch it a little bit with all the yellows and slow zones here, so just hang in there. Pace is fine, and see what we got here.
Now, when the engineer says the Ferrari is just in front of you, can I just be very, very accurate as to how close? It's about 3 car lengths. That is how close the Ford is to the Ferrari in GTE Pro, the Rizzi Competizione car that's leading, as the Audi is back in again.
More brake duct and front wing adjustments on the Audi. So this is what we saw last night, that they were taking the car back into the garage.
Now this is the
Murphy car, spinning under yellows, trying to keep some heat in the tyres. He was just trying to push the car through the Indianapolis corner, and yeah, round she went on slightly colder tyres. I understand what he was trying to do there. He was just trying to use the opportunity to go through Indianapolis and load the car up to warm the tyres.
There's the leader.
I think every driver's done that at some stage.
They won't admit it, though, Giles.
I will.
You will. Bless you. Bless you. Into the pits, then, comes the TDS by Thierry by TDS, even. Oreca Nissan, once second place, now down to third. That's going to be a nose repair, maybe 1 or 2 other things. 1.5 laps in the pits, potentially, under safety car?
Yeah, again, as they're under safety car, they might take a little bit longer just to go through the car and make sure that everything's well, so that they know they've got a thorough run to the end. They're still third in class. The Litigin car is still 2 laps behind them. So there's no reason why they shouldn't spend another lap just making sure that that car is as good as it could be. They're not out of the run-in for the win. They're only 2 laps back. They had a good advantage, so they won't rush it. They won't take any risks, because the car getting damaged out on track again would be far worse than just spending that little bit of time while everybody else is running slowly, making sure it's good.
And of course, they do need to figure out what went wrong in the first place. Was it driver error, or was it a brake failure?
Yeah, by now they'll have gone through the data and worked that one out. So they won't need to see the car to understand that one. They'll have gone through the telemetry data and they'll have said, no, you actually braked 10 yards too late, and that's what the issue was.
The top 3 cars in the Le Mans 24 Hours are on the same straight behind the safety car. This is just spicing things up beautifully. Bringing away nicely this race, isn't it?
Absolutely. So 11 seconds covering the first 3 in P1. We've now got 2 laps covering the first 3 in P2. In GTE Pro, we've already heard that Sebastian Bourdais only 3.5 seconds behind Tony Villander, then a lap back to Scott Dixon in the other Ford. And then when you look at the AM category, there's a lap between first and second, and another lap between second and third. So it's all still pretty close, and it's definitely all still to play for in each of the classes.
Nice WEC-style montage of pit action through the last few hours of racing. These guys work tirelessly. They don't get the credit they deserve. They don't get the rewards that the drivers do. But without them, those heroes, the Tom Christensens, the Derek Bells, the Jackie X's of this world, would be nowhere.
Absolutely. The team effort that goes into all of this cannot be underestimated. It really is massive. And those guys, they've been at the circuit now since before 8 o'clock yesterday morning. They're getting on for 24 hours at the circuit now. They will have been at the circuit for 24 hours by now.
And that
Each
guy
of
looks
these
it.
guys, absolutely. So they've already completed their first 24-hour race. Now these guys will be running on until 6 or 7 o'clock tonight by the time they've got things packed down and cars through. Any scrutineering is likely to go on tomorrow morning, so cars will get looked at. There's the ESM car.
So
No,
for
that
us
didn't go in.
watching...
That didn't go into the wall.
For us watching, it's a 24 hours. For everybody in the pits, it's pretty much a 48-hour race, really.
Yeah, 40 hours is pretty normal. These guys will be pretty exhausted by the end of it. They get the opportunity for a bit of shut-eye, but personally, as a team manager, I've never managed to, even during a long extended safety car period at the Brit Car 24 hours, where the thing's running around in the fog for 3 hours, I've never managed to get a wink of sleep. You're there, you're always thinking, and this is the stage in the race now with Porsche Radio.
So Neil, I'll see the cars in front, the 2 Toyotas. We're fighting with them for the win. We have to pass them on the track. Still 7.5 hours remaining in the race. Are they both on the same sequence now, or? Yes, yep, same sequence. But Neil, both of the Toyotas are on their 3rd stint on their tyres. So next time they box, they'll be changing tyres, and we won't. But it all evens out in the end. Hard game.
So not doing too badly then at Porsche. They only have one of their 2 cars on the lead lap, but they're still ticking over in 3rd position. The 2 Toyotas running okay, with the Ford number 66 now in the pits. So again, all of the woes at Ford seem to have hit the UK cars, not the USA cars.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to comment on that one, really. I think just luck.
Coincidence.
The UK cars, every bit as well prepared as the Chip Ganassi cars from the US team.
Sorry.
A very sleepy Corvette.
Somebody
mechanic.
needs to give that lad a pillow.
Yeah, they do.
They really do. That's cruel, just leaving him there to lull.
He'll be sore when he wakes up. So no, I mean, just going back to what's going on at this stage. So all the engineers and strategists are now going to be calculating back from the end of the race. This is the point where you really can try and work out, right, this is the number of stops we're going to do. This is how it's going to be. That will be dictated to some degree by safety car. But we have seen a solid 8 hours running without a safety car so far this race. We've had a crazy hour or so now, but that's not to say that we're not going to go clean to the end. So yeah, everyone will be saying, right, 3 o'clock, this is where we need to be. How do we do the ultimate run to get there? I suspect that there'll be people thinking about being able to do it in just 7 stops. They'll be thinking about tyre compounds and strategy. It is looking dry to the end, according to the current weather forecast. I think we've been really quite lucky that we only had that really heavy rain at the start of the race, and throughout the rest of the race been dry. We were saying at the start, no, we won't be setting any distance records. I will check where we're going to be with that, because actually
261
lack of safety
laps.
cars, I think we're going to go further than we did last year. Whether we get near a distance record or not, I'm not sure, but I'll have a look at that over the next hour or so.
Looks as though there is a bit more damage than we first estimated, because the car looks quite twitchy at second gear.
He's just being careful. He's going to have a lot of pickup. He's certainly not hit the wall, at least.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point, because the most amount of laps ever covered in a 24-hour race was 397 by the Audi Sport Team in 2010. Mike Rockenfeller, Timo Bernhard and Romain Dumas back in 2010. 397 laps. We could potentially, 7 hours and 20 minutes to go, we could hit the 400 mark. I mean, if we have a particularly clean 7 hours and 20 minutes, it's doable. You know, Toyota and Porsche are pushing each other so hard in this race. We could go to that distance. Giles is, as I make that bold prediction, trying to prove me wrong with the equation, just trying to make sure. Oh, come on, Jake, you're whistling up a commentary. So the safety car is out. Another great question at Leyland Goes Racing on Twitter. What are in the toolkits they carry on board the cars? And Jason Turner adds to that, what's in the toolkit? Basic ratchet, wrench kit?
Yeah, all sorts in the toolkits in those cars. So I'm still crunching numbers. It's going to be close. 30 laps in the hour. No, they're not going to do it.
They're not going to do it. Okay, fair enough.
So no, he was sorry, asking about safety, about the toolkits. There'll be all sorts in there. So there'll be sections of wiring loom to be able to bypass broken bits of wire. So you might have something in there to be able to drive a coil pack direct from an engine control unit, just a bridging loom, a linking loom, so they can unplug one connector, plug it in, and bypass a load of circuits.
Both Toyotas are in. Both Toyotas are in.
Taking the opportunity under safety car to come in and do some proper work on those cars.
The number 2 Porsche staying out.
There'll be lots of bits in there. They've all got these extended leads to be able to plug in and walk around the car and talk to the engineers. They also, probably most of them now, got mobile phones that they can plug into their helmet and make a call to the teams. So there's lots of little bits and bobs in there, tank tape, ratchets. There'll certainly be tools to be able to remove the nose section, as we saw with the Alpine and the rear deck. Just probably some C-spanners to be able to adjust suspension should they need to get a corner up in the air if there's a problem. And equally, you know, a lot of these cars have the ability to be able to lock the diffs via a manual mechanism. So if they lose a drive shaft, they can actually lock the diff, drive the car back to the pits on one-wheel drive. So there's things like that in there. Everybody will be different, but yeah, generally, you know, enough gear to be able to fault find and get the thing back.
And you and I both know, Giles, from the world of motorsport on the world stage and the national stage, the most valuable commodity in that toolkit, as we all know, is the tape. That is the most important part of the entire toolkit, because you would be amazed how much work you can actually do to a racing car with tape to get you home.
Tape and tie wraps.
Yep.
46.
We're almost joking as well. We're almost joking.
It's true, though, isn't it? That's Thierry being rolled back down the pit lane. What I don't understand is why they're pushing the car back to the box. I guess he's fired up.
Is that allowed?
Yeah,
Are they allowed
can
to
push the car back to the box. Yeah, so they've got the car going again. This is what I was saying about taking their time. Maybe they have rushed it a bit. He's driven up the pit lane and found that they've got a vibration or some kind of issue, and he's chosen to pull it in rather than doing a complete lap, which is the wise thing to do. They're allowed to push it backwards down the pit lane. The car can't be under its own motive power going backwards down the pit lane. But no problem with what they're doing. So they're going to spin that car back round and into the box, I would think, unless they forgot to fuel it. But if they'd forgotten to fuel it, they'd have saved more time by just sending it round. But then again, the safety car crock, as we see the Toyotas there, sitting at the end of the pit lane, having taken the opportunity to come in and do the stop, being held, so released behind this next safety car behind that. So that now puts Neil Yarni a whole safety car ahead. That's going to be 1 and a bit minutes, but the Toyotas have got a stop out of the way. So that's now 20 stops for each of the Toyotas, 19 for Conway. Sorry, 19 for Conway, 20 for Buemi, and 20 for Yarni in the Porsche.
Yep.
So
driver changes at both Toyotas, of course.
It's ebbing and flowing. There was a short stint there for both cars, but particularly short for the number 6 of Conway.
Duval is in the 8 Audi, Fessler is in the 7 Audi, and they are still in touch, 2 laps behind the number 8, 12 laps behind the number 7. So they're not far off, 4th and 5th position. They're still in the game. They're still in the game. If one of the big 3 drops out, Audi is still on the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but Conway back in that car now. We saw this last night. Once Conway's installed, he seems to be the one that can really push on the hardest in that number 6 car. So Neil Yarni, the fastest of the Porsche drivers in the number 2. Conway, the fastest of the Toyota drivers in the number 6. And Seb Buemi, I would say, the fastest of the drivers in the number 5. So this is the real sprint specialists that are going to be getting on it and seeing where they end up, seeing some shots from in the pit lane, refueling with Ford getting turned around back into the garage.
Is it bad that when that TDES by Thierry car came into the pits, tried to leave it, and we saw that slow-mo shot of the mechanics running down the pit, is it bad that I visualised the Chariots of Fire song in my head as they ran down the pit lane? Is that bad?
No.
Or am I just overtired?
No, I think you're overtired.
So we've got 7 hours and 15 minutes to go here, and Neil Yarni in the Porsche leads the way with the 2 Toyotas 2nd and 3rd, because they've just made a full service pit stop and driver changes. Conway and Buemi in the car. When we get restarted again, watch Mike Conway. The headline in this Le Mans 24 Hours is where the hell has Mike Conway been, and why hasn't he shown us all this skill before? Because he is, for me, I know this is a team sport, I know this is endurance, and I know this isn't a sprint race, although effectively it's several sprint races within an endurance race nowadays, of course. But if there's one man in the Toyota team that can put his hands up and say, we've done a good job, and I've been integral to that, it's Mike Conway. He's been absolutely mighty.
Let's not jinx him, but I think at 3 o'clock that will be the story. What Conway did to bring the Toyota home wherever it may finish. You know, he really has been the out and out star of that show so far.
Now, the Captain Smarty Pants Award on Twitter is likely to go to @ReedDA. He heard us say an unlimited tyres rule, but apparently the rule book on page 22 says there is a limit. When did we say unlimited tyres?
I've said that, but pretty confident that it is unlimited tyres.
I wouldn't question Giles Dawson. He does know what he's talking about on this one. Safety car in this lap. Safety car in this lap. So, 2 Toyotas, nose to tail, are going to charge after that Porsche. Now, on the gap, it is 1 minute 57, but we're on the safety car.
Information to the pit lane. We're bringing the safety cars in at the end of this lap. We're bringing the safety cars in at the end of this lap.
So we've got the Toyotas chasing after the Porsche. There is one car on the road between the 68 Ferrari and the Competizione Ferrari, and that is the 68 Porsche, which is the GTE AM machine. So there's one car between the leaders in GTE Pro. That battle's going to kick off. Richelme in the Alpine still leading, having made that brilliant pit stop, that strategic decision, and they've still got a lap in hand over René Rast in the G-Drive Eureka. So as you were saying, Giles, that was the sensible decision for the Signatec Alpine. They were 2 laps clear. Why on earth shouldn't they? And it's still given that they've still got a lap in hand.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they've got that lap in hand, and they might as well look after the car, make sure it's done properly.
So Jeffrey Seagal is your leader in the Ferrari in the GTE AM category, about a lap ahead of Heinemir Hansen in the Porsche number 88, the Abu Dhabi Proton car. Still there in second position, David Heinemir Hansen of Denmark sharing the car with the American Patrick Long and the Dubai-based racer Khaled Al-Kubaizi. Lights out on the safety car, and this is the one that's on the back straight. So the Audi is pulling off in front of us. The Audi safety car is pulling off right in front of us, and we're racing again. So the Le Mans 24 Hours continues with 7 hours and 11 minutes on the clock. Game on. And this is going to be a bit like a sprint. Here comes the Audi shooting down the straight. Going for it, Big Star. He's actually on the dust on the far side of the circuit, trying to pick his way through traffic. Watch the cars make their way through here. The Rizzi Competizione Ferrari is getting impatient with 2 Astons right in front, and that's why the Ford is right on the tail. So this is going to be a bit like a sprint race for the next half an hour or so at least, because there's a big challenge here, because we've got the Porsche and the 2 Toyotas not too far away in tow, and then we have the battle for the GTE Pro, and this is Sebastian Bourdais we're riding on board with. Tony Villander is not far up the road. There he is in the 82 Rizzi Competizione Ferrari, and there's the Ford. That is the battle for the victory in the GT class. It is so close. It is so tight. And this is no longer an endurance race at this particular point of the Le Mans 24 Hours. This one's a sprint. 7 hours and 10 minutes to go. We're all pretty impressed with what the Ford can do. Into the pits now. That's a bit of frustration there for the 69 Ford just in front of us coming into the pits, because he got bulked by the Garage 56 entry, the SRT 41 by Oak racing car. Frederic Sausset and his colleagues, Christophe Tinceau and Jean-Bernard Bouvet. Not sure who's in that car at the moment. In fact, that's a bit of a question. Where are they currently in the race? Because they're not in the top 25. I can tell you that they're above the bottom, but they're below the top. So they are pretty much in the mid-section. Their target is not to finish in any particular position, it's to finish. And to be honest, they've looked very good all the way throughout. So the gap between the Porsche and the 2 Toyotas, Neil Jani leading, Mike Conway and Sebastian Buemi second and third, is a minute. It's a minute.
To answer the point on the tyres, no, if you look at the note 7.7.4, it's very clear these regulations do not apply to the 24 Hours Le Mans.
Aha! So it's a WEC rule, it's not a Le Mans rule.
Which is what we've been saying.
I have to say, if it was a Le Mans rule, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah,
we would be in trouble.
Yeah, no, so that's pretty normal. And it's interesting, the tyre regulations, the way it works, because there is tyre competition in all the classes, and you know, Dunlop and Michelin are fighting it out hard in the GTE Pro category, and then we've got the same thing in the LMP class. But LMP1, all the top runners on Michelin, and then we've got the privateer entries, the LMP1Ls on Dunlops. So it kind of ebbs and flows throughout the classes, and the same in the LMP2 category, Michelin Dunlop split. But interesting that Aston Martin chose to change the tyre manufacturer at the start of the year to Dunlop, because they felt that they were going to get a better response from Dunlop to have a tyre developed for them. While Michelin were focusing on the mid-engine cars, they really wanted to work with somebody on getting a tyre to work for the front-engine car.
At this moment in time, my money is still on Toyota. In the first sector of that last lap, Neel Jani did a 37.0. The Toyotas were in the 33s. Let's just let that resonate for a moment. A 37.0 for Jani, 33s for the Toyotas. Drive-through penalty for the 98 Aston Martin for speeding in the pit lane. Well, we got that little warning a little bit earlier on that they were sent to the stewards for speeding in the pits. In the second sector, the Porsche has done an 81.1. The Toyotas, 78s. This is absolutely monstrous speed. Now, I don't think this is just traffic for some reason.
No, I don't either. I think that is genuine pace, so see how it pans out through the next lap or so.
The Porsche hasn't pitted, so they don't have a problem. But Conway and Buemi have both been told, right, you're sprint specialists, get on it, go.
So 4 seconds lost in the first sector, and now another 3 seconds lost in the second sector. They know they need to chase him if they want to put the pressure on, having made that stop under safety car, but equally Jani owes us a stop, so Jani is in the 2 car, 241 and a safety car. I suspect we're going to see Jani 251.
Well, Jani is on
we're going to see Jani this lap or next lap for a stop.
Jani's on the Mulsanne going into the first chicane, just as Conway and Buemi come over the start-finish line and down towards the Dunlop curves. The gap is down to 56 seconds.
And actually, Toyota, that was the blinder on the strategy, because that's now going to put Toyota well clear, both cars well clear of Jani when he gives us his stop very shortly. And they're back kind of in sync. There's only going to be 2 or 3 laps between them.
And Jani does need to make a driver change here, I think. Is it a full service stop? No, it's not.
Jani will be staying in.
But 56 seconds, that is not enough to get in and get out, no matter what they do.
Both cars, no shadow of a doubt there. Doesn't matter how quickly he goes now, and he's losing time to them again. No, he's now put the hammer down through the first sector, so he's probably on an in-lap this lap. He took a second out of the Toyotas there on that first sector.
Careful, boys, don't hit each other, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I think Seb Buemi just trying to make his point. Look, I'm here. I'm every bit as quick as you. Get out of the way. We're both racing for a win here.
Surely they should work together here at this point.
They will, but if you're Sebastian Buemi, you want to be the car that's leading.
That's true. That's true.
It's as simple as that. You don't want to get caught up in Mike Conway's accident if he was to drop it under braking, as we've seen with all these other issues that have gone on throughout. So, yeah, he's coming. Toyota radio.
What are the team orders? Jani 56 seconds ahead. Jani 56 seconds ahead.
Well,
that didn't
answer the question at all. Yeah, that was Buemi saying, are there any team orders? Can I overtake him?
Yeah.
We're not going to answer that question.
And Buemi immediately driving away from Conway, which I'm quite surprised by that. You know, Conway has been the star of the show so far for me. But Buemi just now trying to prove his point. And let's hope Sebastian's got his head engaged and he's not going to go and have a silly off now chasing down Jani. They don't need to chase Jani too hard. We're going to be equal on all things equal on pit stops once Jani stops, and Jani is coming through now the final sector. We will see him in this or next. I can't tell you which because of the safety car. Depends how much fuel he saved under safety car. No, he is in now in pit lane, so the Toyotas are going to come through to take that lead back. That's the number 2 car in.
Oh, it's getting exciting again. Into the pits comes Neel Jani. Now, Nelson Pagliatici, we saw him hit the wall a little bit earlier on. I don't know when, I don't know how, we didn't see it, but they're back in the pits. So fair play to Nelson Pancetici. He's managed to get the car started and bring it home.
I think he managed to do that under the safety car, which was probably the safest thing for everybody, and that may be why they've let it go. But that was the point we were making. You know, the marshals needed to give him that opportunity to bring that car back. That will get a front corner. That car will be back on its way. I have no shadow of a doubt about that. Thivier car still falling down the order, now back behind the Straka, still in the pits, so they haven't sorted that problem. I think he has done an out and in. So there is obviously some more damage there on that Thivier car than expected.
Well, if Anthony Dreve can hear us, can we get down to Nelson Pancetici in car 35 and
Thivier while he's at it?
And
because
Thivier.
the Thivier car that is still in the race for LMP2 honours.
Meanwhile, the Toyota's going to flash past the pits and they're going to go 1 and 2 at a critical point in the Le Mans 24 hours. Porsche out of the pits. Bye-bye. The Toyotas have well and truly flummoxed them here. And look at that. That's a big morale boost to the crew.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to be very pleased with that. I'm surprised that Yanni's come out between the two of them, but that won't last for very long. I think that Conway's been held up in traffic there.
Oh, hang on a second. What car is right in front of these three on the road? It's the #1 Porsche. Things could get interesting here. I'm not saying that the #1 Porsche, who's at the wheel of that at the moment? They're so far down, we're not sure who's at the wheel.
We'll have a look. I suspect it's Mark Webber.
Now, Mark Webber, at the best of times, knows how to go for a battle. If he wants to help the #2,
Timo Bernhard.
it's Bernhard.
Yeah, we saw that change, didn't we, earlier on?
They are 38 laps off the lead, that Porsche.
So we're just seeing a drive-through penalty being issued to car 98, which is Paul Galilana and now Matthias Lauda into that car.
And
but
I'm afraid to say
55.
there is a possible overtake of the 55, which car is the 55? That is the AF Corse Ferrari. So one of their rivals under safety car. That's under investigation as well.
Yeah, let's see what goes on there. But either Paul on his in lap or Matthias on his out lap with an issue there.
So it's the LMP2 Alpine car of Stefan Richelmy that leads in LMP2 in 6th overall. René Rast, the Audi factory driver, of course, in the 26 Arica, as well as the development driver for the Project Cars video game. It's not bad, these racing drivers. They get to do all manner of playtime as well as work. Ledijin is 3rd in the BR Engineering car that's run by SMP. And 4th position, it's the all Anglo-Saxon British Straka. Johnny Kane at the wheel at the moment. And that car could be on for a podium on its swan song. Still the Toyotas reel in the #1 Porsche to try and put a lap on it as they work their way through the traffic. The Porsche has got past the Murphy. Now it's going to get past the Manor. Flash the lights, get out of the way. Those are the two Toyotas that you've just been lapped by, and I'm trying to catch them. This is a great battle.
Pretty intimidating for these P2 drivers and GTE drivers, seeing these cars coming past them. It's not so much headlight flashing going on as was going on last night, but the guys just, get out of my way, we're coming through. You're going to come to a sequence like the Porsche curves, and this is where that gap will ebb and flow. The cars will close back up. You're seeing Timo Bernhard there in shot as well, so that's Bernhard who's several laps down ahead of Buemi Conway, and in the same shot our 3rd place car there with Neil Jani at the wheel. So here we go, here's the traffic that I was talking about through the Porsche curves. You're a brave man to go high around whoever that is who got well off circuit.
Okay, but you've got 2 Toyotas and car 2 behind you. You've got 2 Toyotas and then car 2 just behind you.
Guy Wilson-Clark there with a message with an undertone, one would suggest.
Basically, there are 2 Toyotas behind you. The Porsche's right on the tail. We want the Porsche to lead the Le Mans 24 hours. You know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. without saying anything, I think he had that one covered off. So no, they'll Timo Bernhard's just pushing on as hard as he can.
I get to sit here for 4 more hours of this battle. This is absolutely incredible. Julian Porter's going to have to mud wrestle me to the ground at this rate, because this is absolutely majestic, the Le Mans battle we're getting.
I don't want to see that.
You don't want to see I don't want to see that. And I'm going to be the man in the middle of it. The Toyotas running 1 and 2 with the Porsche right on the tail. The gap between those 3 cars as we go now, 7 hours to go. We have completed 17 hours of racing, and the gap is 2.2 seconds between the top 3. This is like Steve McQueen's Le Mans all over again. And that was a fictional movie. That was a glorified example of what Le Mans could be.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is
happening.
Real thing. This is the real thing. So BR01 up onto the podium for the first time in the P2 category so far this race. That's massive to see those guys, the SMP Racing guys, getting some reward for all their efforts. I think that's the first time we've seen anything other than an Orica in a podium place in the LMP2 class. So those guys will be pressing on extremely hard. That is the last time the BR01 SMP Racing chassis will be here at Le Mans. So let's see what they can do. They really, really would love to take that car away with a podium. So see where we are. Straka Racing only 11 seconds behind those guys, and then we're still seeing Thierry fall down the order. So if either of our guys down in the pit lane can have a look and find out what's going on there with the number 46, it does seem like this is slipping from their grasp. They were, when they first got that car turned round and down the pit lane, looked like they were still going to be in with a shout.
But Buemi leads, Conway second, Yanni third, and here they come on the number 1 Porsche. This is going to be interesting. I'm half expecting, if Keanu Reeves is still on the site, I'm half expecting him to wander over to Mark Webber and whisper in his ear, I want Porsche to win them all, in the same sort of style of Steve McQueen and whoever it was that played the team manager in the 1970 movie. Because this is the best script for a Le Mans 24 hours you could possibly write. You couldn't even dream this kind of fight. And it's happening right before our very eyes with just under 7 hours to go. That is a WEC race plus an hour. This is absolutely baffling how close it is.
Yeah, and the WEC races have been very close so far this year, so if that 6 hours is anything to go by and we don't have a race of attrition, then I think we'll be there and having that scrap down to the last lap.
Team manager, car 1, can you please tell your driver he's getting blue flags on the display? He just has the leader behind him.
Yeah, doing the right thing there. So Eduardo Freitas just reminding Porsche that they need to play nicely, get Webber out of the way. If he passes too many of those blue flags, the Porsche team will get a penalty.
Bernhard.
As we see him, yeah, I mean, you'd almost say boxing him in against the Aston there. So, yeah, Bernhard needs to get out of the way. Yeah, still
and
going
he's not.
past more blue flags, you know.
And he's not. I suppose, from his point of view, what's the worst that can happen? The number 1 car gets a penalty, it's already out of the race.
Absolutely, but Eduardo Freitas doesn't look at those things very kindly, you know, so yeah, there you go, he's letting them pass. So he did his best to push them back, but no, Eduardo and his team, they know that what comes around goes around. So yeah, they do a fantastic job of governing this WEC Championship. And,
yeah, you can do it for a lap, but you can't do the Sylvester Stallone driven thing and get out of the pits and very nearly kill somebody.
Yeah, so that's that done, and
so
okay,
Anthony Trevet is no longer in the pits. It's Gert who's taken over down in the pits.
Gert,
and
can you just confirm to us that Thierry is a retirement?
Is Thierry a retirement, we think, potentially? It is a retirement. Oh, dear. So the TDS by Thierry car, thanks to Gerd down in the pits. But the Thierry is out. So obviously that shunt, either it did a lot more damage than we thought it did, or there was a bigger underlying problem that caused that crash.
That's really sad for those guys. They really had done a fantastic job.
They were leading at one point
with the Alpine cars for the lead of the class, exactly. But that has brought the BR01 up onto the podium, and those guys at SMP Racing will feel this is some just dessert for all the efforts they've gone to designing a car from a clean sheet of paper, and yeah, doing it the hard way. So you know, we've now got Orica, BR01, and then a Gibson. So again, it would be great to see the Gibson on the podium in its final Le Mans. That car not able to come back next year, being an open cockpit car. The new 2017 regulations will have a selection of 5 chassis to choose from, and a power plant given to us by the Gibson guys, which will be based, I believe, on a Nissan block.
Jason Turner, while we were on the subject of movies, reminding us that Steve McQueen, of course, was going to race in the Le Mans 1970 edition with Jackie Stewart, of all people, but the movie studio said, no, don't do it. They actually wrote no racing into his contract, which was about the same sort of time The Great Escape came out. I mean, can you imagine Steve McQueen and Jackie Stewart in a 9:17? That could have won it. That could easily have won that race.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, don't know how good Steve McQueen really was, but yeah, 917 was a pretty good car.
So the Toyotas 1 and 2, Buemi in front of Conway, 2 sprint specialists. But the trend is get a few sprint specialists who know what they're doing, because the way that Le Mans ebbs and flows nowadays, it really is 4 WEC sprints within the space of 24 hours. Yeah. It is so tight and so tense, and these guys are pushing it to the extreme here.
Just wondering what we're going to see on this replay. No, just going past a slower car on the outside. So we had seen for about an hour lots of green sector times, so personal best sectors, but that seems to have gone away now. Everything just settling back down to a bit of sense. So that mad hour we had there with lots of mistakes going on was also a pretty quick hour. Everybody just settling back into the fights. If we look at the GTE Pro class, there's now 7 seconds between Bourdais and Villander. So Villander being able to just stretch the Ferrari and bring a gap to the Ford. I think that's going to run that situation. They're on the same lap, and then Richard Westbrook also on the same lap in the other Ford, in this number 69 Ford, but a lot further back. They've got some P2 cars between them and the overall classification. Risi Competizione there, this is the leading car in GTE Pro.
And the Ford is in as well. Sebastian Bourdais is in the pit lane at exactly the same time. So again, we've got another pit stop race here. This is fantastic. The Ford boys versus the Ferrari boys.
Full service for the Ford. Don't know whether we're full service on the Ferrari as well. So this is people planning to the end now. This is people looking to the end, saying, right, full service now. We won't need another full service for another 2 hours. And then go from there. So they're now parallel in terms of strategy. They're parallel on fuel mileage. This is now just a sprint race for the next 7 hours to the end.
I'm getting goosebumps watching this battle between Ferrari and Ford. It's just like good old times, isn't it? It is a massive story in this Le Mans 24 hours, and considering how close it already is, this could even eclipse the headlines that we've got between Toyota and Porsche at the moment, because it is so close. And this is retro is the new cool, basically, being played out in the GTE Pro, because we've got a Ford GT and a Ferrari battling it out for the victory in the GT class, and there is nothing to choose between them. The Ferrari leaves. If all has gone to plan at Ford, they should be leaving 7 seconds ago. So the Ferrari has done a good job. The Ford taking a little bit longer, so the gap has opened up a little bit there as a result of that pit stop. Sebastian Bourdais shuts the door. There's been a driver change there. And I think there's been a driver change at Ferrari as well. It's Matteo Malucelli who's now in the car. So Malucelli's in. Who's in the 68 Ford now? That's going to be... leaving the pits, it's Muller.
Bourdais lost 14 seconds there on the stop, so that's not down to fuel fill time. That's all equalised through the restrictors in the fuel rig. That's just down to, I think, seeing the four guys adding a bit of oil as well. So they've just got more done, and hopefully they can bring that time back down to close the gap. So 14 seconds lost in the pits for the Ford. It's the Toyota now, number 6 Toyota, Mike Conway, chasing down Sebastian Buemi. The number 2 car now in camera shot, 4 seconds between them, 5 seconds covering our top 3 overall.
So close. So close.
The gap on the GTE Pro battle, which is our other major battle, very close battle, it's now 22 seconds, so the 7+2 does give us the gap that we were expecting.
Just look at the graphic at the top of the screen. This is how much speed the Porsche 919 Hybrid carries through the Porsche curves. Through the faster curves, that was at 260 kilometers an hour. The amount of G that a driver must go through those Porsche curves must be mind-blowing. You're talking fighter pilot.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's a very narrow section of circuit with walls very close either side. They're brave boys.
Jake Robson asks, are you surprised we haven't seen any big crashes regarding LMP cars lapping GTs? This year, no, I'm not.
These guys are all professionals, you know, even the amateurs, the gentlemen drivers are extremely professional and take this sport extremely seriously. You know, it's about being respectful. If you ask me, the LMP drivers being respectful of the GTE cars. They shouldn't be expected to jump out the way because there's an LMP car coming through. There's been contact. We've seen that. We know that there is wounding on the number 6 Toyota from contact, wheel-to-wheel contact with the GTE Ferrari. So it has happened, but I just think a lot more space being given, and the system's improving within the cars, a lot more visibility around the cars with inboard cameras, rear-facing cameras. So no excuse really for driving into one another.
Yeah, the general guide to etiquette when lapping a car is that the lapped car is not going to move off the racing line. It's the duty of the car that's faster to go around the car, so pick the moment wisely to go round. It's not the duty of the car who's slower in front to get out of the way unnecessarily. They're driving their own race, so it's basically the duty of the prototypes to make the move at the appropriate time and pull out, because that's the safest thing to do. It's the safest thing for a GT car to do. If you've got a slower car in front of you, weaving around all over the place trying to get out of your way, that actually causes more problems than it solves. So from a GT driver's point of view, you just keep driving on the racing line. As long as you don't deliberately block, you're doing fine.
Yep, absolutely.
So down the straight, Toyota's 1 and 2. Buemi has opened up the gap to 2.6 seconds with a blinding first sector. He did a 32.8 on the last. He seems to have got very lucky with the traffic. His teammate Conway seems to have been a little bit held up. But again, it's the ebb and flow. I have a feeling it's going to come back to Conway before too long, just because we've got a nice little cluster of slower cars up the road, and that's not even the one we're looking at. So Conway still within striking distance of the lead of this race. As into the pits comes the Greaves 41 with Memo Rojas at the wheel. That car has steadily been increasing its form and has moved up into 6th overall in the LMP2 category. Somebody is asking on Twitter, can we, for the newbies, explain the differences between LMP1, LMP2, GTE, Pro and Am? Not today. I'd love to say we could for the newbies.
The key factors, just a really brief one. The LMP1 cars driven by manufacturers, LMP1H, two classes there. The H, the hybrids, carrying in this instance this year, all 3 of them, battery packs. That are giving them an amount of electrical energy deployed differently depending on which of the manufacturers you're in. And then the LMP1L is just pure turbocharged engines in that case, turbocharged V8 from AER, powering all 3 of those cars. Not that any of them are really still running and with us. We have got one of the Rebellions still going around. Then LMP2 is a chassis to a very similar standard to that. There are still open cars there. Engines produced by Nissan in the majority. We have got Hondas and Judd engines in that class. But those cars, about 450 horsepower, are lapping, pretty respectively compared to the LMP1 cars. But yeah, they're designed for a gentleman racer to come in and drive them. GTE, Pro and Am. The cars are very similar. This year's the first year we have a change again between these 2 classes, where we've got the Pro cars with new aero packages, a lot more downforce and going slightly faster than the Am cars. But again, those cars have to be based on a production road car. The Ford is here with a waiver because we don't yet have the production road car for sale. But they are the GTE cars, generally a production car converted to be a race car.
I'll tell you what, I'm impressed you managed to do that in such a short space of time. I've never been able to explain it that quickly. That's brilliant. Michael Lancaster actually makes a point on that, the Ford waiver, is that Ford has announced they'll make 400 GTs. That's a lot.
I think they're all sold.
Yeah, they are all sold.
I think you had to be invited to buy one, is what I understand.
That's a pretty exclusive club. You can bet that all 6 of their drivers were offered one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, McLaren
No,
were,
all 12, sorry. All 12 of their drivers were offered one.
I'd be surprised, but I think Mr. Franchitti might have bought one.
Oh yeah, Dario definitely would have bought one. Dario, so, that's going to be the drive to the supermarket, Dario.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I mean they will build those 400 cars. They really have to, as part of the binding agreement they signed with the other manufacturers. But those cars will be pretty unique, and it's exactly what McLaren did with the P1. And there's other good examples of that. So McLaren built a limited number. I think they built 350 P1s. So it's the same thing. These small exclusive hypercars that are being produced now all over the place. LaFerrari FXX is another good example.
Here's a question I've got, and this is an interesting one. We had a bit of an era 15 years ago where the Audi R8 was the car to have, so they built a few of them and they sold them to customer teams. We just don't seem to have that in LMP1 nowadays. There are no teams out there that are buying the new top-of-the-range Porsche 919 Hybrid, the Audi
Cars are
R18.
too hard to run. You know, you're talking about 180 people within the Porsche outfit now. You can't do it as a privateer with these hybrid systems. They're so complex. You know, you are not in a position where somebody can take a Porsche 919 and run it. Just the resources required to run those cars, just absolutely too great. You know, we're just seeing Fred Saussay there, though, one of the other really huge stories of this race as things settle down at the front with a 10-second gap covering the first three. He's about to get in the car. This guy, quadruple amputee, fantastic story in the Garage 56 entry. So not about new technology really this year, although the tech on that car to allow a quadruple amputee to drive it is pretty impressive. So he's getting ready to get in that car. I believe he did a double stint last night. I think that's
incredible.
The first time we've seen him do that.
That's incredible.
And yeah, no, completely. We'll talk. I'm sure. Well, hopefully we'll see him being put into the car. Porsche radio.
How's the Ringip helping? Where are you struggling? Where has it helped? Helping a little, but somehow in the middle of the chicane, I can't carry the speed I would like to. Car just washes away, and a lot of movement in high speed. Copy.
A lot of movement and high speed, says Neil Jarni. So the car is not quite coming to him at the moment from his point of view. Frederic Saussay, going back to that story, more than I want this battle to go to the wire for the LMP1 victory, more than I want the GTE Pro victory to go down to the wire, more than I want a lack of rain, more than I want a lack of safety car periods, I want to see that SRT 41 car cross the finish line.
The Morgans are very well tried and respected chassis, so they know the reliability's there. Let's hope they can do it.
Gert is down in the pits, I believe, down at the Rizzi Competizione pit.
Tony Villander, Sunday morning. It's all to play for. There's only seconds between you and the Fords.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've been doing 18 hours of hard racing. Survived the early rain, hard condition during the night. Now actually our car is running pretty well. We were lucky with one of the slow zones against Ford, but again they were lucky with the safety car. The whole gap was cancelled, so I had to push like hell for the last 4 laps to get close to a 10-second gap, and we had some issues on the pit stop, and theirs was even worse. So now the gap is around 20 seconds, and we keep pushing and see what happens in the end.
The fact that you're the only Ferrari, does that add to the pressure?
No pressure. I mean, we try our best. We do our job. Obviously, we work for Ferrari, and there's a good collaboration between us and IAA, of course, but this is a one and another team, so we do our job here. Unfortunate to the others, but we cannot lose any energy thinking about them. We just go. We need to think our home, our territory.
Thank you.
Fascinating to hear from Tony Villander. That's a great battle between two American teams, works teams, going head-to-head for the GTE Pro category victory. And still, the Signatech Alpine is leading in the LMP1 class.
LMP2, yeah, absolutely.
LMP2, yes.
What I've just seen that particularly interesting is Audi number 8 just set its fastest lap of the race.
Didn't quite hear, unfortunately, what the Signatech said.
I think it may have been in French.
Oh dear.
So, no, right, we've got the Audi just set its fastest lap of the race, a 3:23. They're far from out of this. We kind of dismissed the fact, oh, Audi number 8's not there. You know, the battle that we're being 12 seconds between the first three. The Audi's only a lap back. And it's just set its fastest lap of the race.
It's very true. We're talking about Toyota and Porsche, Toyota and Porsche, Toyota and Porsche. The Audi is only a lap adrift and in 4th position. Why are we counting them out at the moment?
We shouldn't be.
No.
I think, you know, since we've come on, we've kind of dismissed it. But then just seeing that green fastest personal best for the Audi number 8, suddenly reminds you that, hang on, this is Audi. Never count Audi out. They're only a lap back. They can do this still. There's still plenty of time for them to do pull off something massive. You know, could we have Toyota Porsche, Audi in any particular order on the Toyota radio, on the podium. Toyota radio.
What should I do? Just try to be consistent in your driving style. It's all okay. Try to be consistent in driving style.
Interesting to hear Buemi asking the engineer what should he do. You know, he's in the car, he's the one that can feel what's going on. He's looking for reassurance. It's like he's feeling the pressure of leading the race, you know, and where Mike Conway's just settled in, doing what he does. Conway took two seconds out of him on the last lap. I think Sebastian Buemi getting himself quite agitated now, just needing to just calm it down before a mistake happens.
Well, I think he's aware of the fact that there's still 6 hours and 40 minutes to go. He can't really sit on his laurels and just sprint away. He's got to nurse the car as much as he has push it.
He can't, but, you know, he's talking about a balance issue there, but looking to the engineer for the solution. You know, at the end of the day, the engineer's not in that car. Audi now getting warned for track limits on the exit of 6, which is exit of 6 is Porsche Curves. No, it's not. It's Tete Rouge on the exit of Tete Rouge. So both the Audis now choosing to really throw it down. Fassler 10 laps behind Duval, but Duval only 1 lap, as we say, behind our leaders. So Audi clearly deciding that it's time to push.
Jake Robson on Twitter wants to know a little bit more about the tech that Frédéric Saucey needs to use to drive the car. So very quickly, because we are in the midst of a pretty exciting battle here, basically Saucey, he activates his accelerator and the brake via a conventional pedal system. It's exactly the same. The difference is his seat insert actually has paddles which are connected to the pedals that he works with his thighs. So he's actually using his thigh muscles, basically, to stretch to the pedals. So that's how he works the pedals. Then, because, of course, he doesn't have any hands, so he's then using a prosthetic limb on his right arm. That plugs into an attachment on the steering wheel, and obviously that's then removed and replaced with a conventional one so that Tasso and Bouvet can drive the car. But that basically means he's driving this whole race one-handed.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible. They've also given him some concessions because of Saucey's disability, so they tried to make it as easy as possible for him. So the brakes are power-assisted. The ABS has been granted on this car and this car alone, but as a result of that, it's still pretty incredible what he's able to achieve.
Yeah, and the gearbox is running in an automatic mode as well for him. But no, absolutely, and the times he's doing, the times he's done all year throughout the European Le Mans Series have just been coming down and down and down and down. He practiced through driving a LMP3 car last year, in effect a CN car. He did a lot of laps in that, and I think that car was actually a lot harder for him to drive than this car, with the assistance that he's been given. But no, he's doing a fantastic job. We've not seen any mistakes from him, none at all.
I've never even seen that car go off.
No moments, no silliness. Just getting it done. Knows what it is that he needs to do when he's in the car, just deliver consistent lap times. You know, we watched him last night hold some traffic up through the Porsche curves. He was holding a couple of GTE cars up and LMP1 cars up, but he stayed online. He just got the job done, came through, and knows what he's doing, knows what he's there to deliver. And yeah, hopefully we'll see that page on that car on the first page of the timing come the end of the race. Is my hope.
Do you know, I don't even think I've ever seen that car in the garage.
Only when he's been being put in the car.
That's it, yeah. Other than being in the garage to be put in the car, I've not seen that car with damage or problems at all.
No, absolutely. You know, they lose quite a lot of time installing Fred into the car, but no, he's doing an absolutely fantastic job.
Takes about 5-10 minutes to get that done properly, but that's not a surprise. The only other bit of tech that's very different to anything else is the seat. He has to meet the FIA evacuation standard, of course, because for safety reasons, you've got to be able to get out of the car in a hurry. So to enable him to do this, his seat is actually forced upwards by compressed air. So it's, in effect, it's an ejector seat. At the push of a button, it goes up, and then he rolls himself out of the car, and he's very well trained to do that. So anybody thinking, well, that's quite dangerous, isn't it? Well, no, Frédéric has practiced this.
He can choose when he rolls out or where to. Yeah, absolutely.
He's practiced it time and time again, so he knows exactly what to do if the situation occurs. Into the pits again comes the leading LMP2 car.
Not standard stop by the looks of it. There's no tyres ready, I don't think.
Fuel, windscreen wipe, get those dead bugs off the windshield.
Staying in. Ricciardo staying in. Fuel is done, and away he goes.
That is a pretty superb routine stop. They're looking good. They just need to keep doing this, basically.
Yeah, I mean, LMP2 5-6 years ago, we'd have seen this being a race of attrition. It would be who could spend the least time in the pits. Long gone are those days. You know, now it is a sprint race, much as we're seeing in LMP1 and GTE.
Barbara on Twitter, my life as Babs. Fastest speed on a straightaway. I'm guessing that's...
Ks-ish.
Yeah, 280 Ks?
Yeah, 260, 280 Ks. Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't paid much attention to top speeds this week. It's been
one of those factors.
Headlines have kind of gone on the top speeds this year because they're all on the same hybrid systems. Last year there was big talk around the top speeds because we had such disparity across the 3 LMP1 cars and the way they delivered them, the 4 LMP1 manufacturers last year with Nissan here as well, and Nissan was actually the quickest thing in a straight line. They were hitting 220 miles an hour, the Nissan last year, on one run when they had full hybrid and petrol engine going, and the slipperiness of that car, which is what the whole thing was designed around. No, we'll keep an eye on the speed traps. I'll try and find some speed traps on the screen.
It's a shame I didn't. It's a shame it didn't really work out, the Nissan, because although it was, I won't say it was doomed to failure, because it was a very big, ambitious plan. It was. You're never really going to get something like that to work without, you know, years, potentially even decades of research, because it's just so far from the norm. But I love the audacity of it.
You have to question why, 300 engineers based around Ingolstadt and Stuttgart between them haven't come up with driving a car around backwards.
Okay, when you explain it like that, that makes me sound very, very slow, but I understand exactly what you're saying. Yeah, like, I know exactly what you're saying.
Hold on, you know, they've got the budgets.
I mean, from a fan's point of view,
it was fantastic
cool.
From a fan point of view.
It was cool because it's completely different from anything else you're ever going to see.
Exactly.
But there is a reason that it's not done by anybody else.
There are 300 engineers in Germany who haven't tried that, you know. Yeah, ultimately, I think Ben Bowlby's concept was pretty damn good. But, you know, the Delta Wing was the prime example. What Ben did there was brilliant. That car was running with the P2 cars. That concept's continued to be developed in the USA, being driven by Catherine Legg and Mimo Rojas. You know, it led Daytona. Catherine led Daytona overall. So the concept of the Delta Wing that Ben came out with was pretty good, but I think maybe the Nissan concept, just a step too far, trying to apply that concept to the current LMP1 regulations. It's not to say it was a stupid idea, it's that, hang on, the current LMP1 regulations, it's not the ultimate answer.
I'm going to stick myself out on the limb and say I absolutely love that Delta Wing. I think it's so cool.
The Delta Wing, that whole project has been fantastic, and what they've achieved through that has been pretty good. It's gone away from the original concept somewhat now. But it is a fantastic piece of machinery, and they've had to add some weight to it to get the reliability. But what Catherine showed at Daytona is, you know, it can do it. She absolutely, you know, she drove away from all of those guys. And it would be great to see Catherine Legg here in something, because I think she really proved what she can do at Daytona, and that she is probably the fastest female currently in international motorsport.
I'll take that. Yeah, I'd say that's probably right at the moment.
Christina Nielsen, who's racing here, is probably a close second, and Christina is currently leading the GTD point standings in the WeatherTech series over in the States. She's a very, very handy peddler, but I think Catherine's experience probably takes it.
I'd absolutely agree with that one. Catherine Legg, fastest woman on the planet, best woman on the planet for racing. Yeah, I'd say that's about right. Reed DA, Smarty Pants. Again, he's decided to go after clarification on this tyre rule thing, and apparently 24 Hours of Le Mans themselves have tweeted the teams are limited in terms of the number of tyres they are permitted to use. It's about 40 sets for LMP1. And straight to the rulebook.
I'll let you read it.
Straight to the rulebook goes Giles Dawson.
I've lost my mind.
Right, okay. Where is it? What am I looking at here? 7.74. Summary table of tyre limitations per event do not apply to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Yeah. That
Either
definitely
way,
says
we'll stop
two different books. Two different books saying two different things.
That's the FIA current website. So.
Avery Hage has tweeted us as well. Regarding top speeds, the P1 cars have reached about 330 to 340 kilometers per hour on the Mulsanne Straight during this race.
KPH,
yeah.
That's yeah, okay.
That's pretty astonishing still, isn't it? That's really fast. Really, really fast. Into the pits comes Conway, car number 6. So the first one to blink is the one in second place, as Marcel Fessler in the number 7 Audi is in the pits as well. There goes the Porsche through to second position, 18.6 behind Buemi's Toyota. Robert on Twitter, are the cars using the same tyre compounds during Le Mans as the rest of the WEC season?
Yes, there are various compounds. They're probably using more compounds here than anywhere else, but Michelin do develop the compounds specifically for each manufacturer, so they'll have been able to choose probably some time ago what they wanted, and I suspect there'll be compounds they haven't used during the race as well, because they've got to cover all eventualities with the weather. But talking to the Michelin guys, they were saying that there's one manufacturer with up to 8 compounds of the slick here.
It's a two-part question as well, because they talk about WEC, but they also ask IMSA. I think the rules are different for IMSA, aren't they?
Yeah, IMSA rules are different. The Continental spec tyre in IMSA, so it's very different out there. You've got your spec tyre that you're running on all year.
So things are starting to settle in a little bit in this battle for the lead. Nobody's really blinking a big blink yet. Conway in and out for his second stint in the car. After some fuel. Did they change tyres? I don't think they did they? I can't remember.
No tyres.
No tyres, yeah, no tyres. I didn't think they changed the tyres. Gianni is the man in the car at the moment. 59 seconds ahead of Mike Conway's Toyota. That's about right. But he hasn't really got a big enough gap over Conway to resume out in front of him again. So now he's going to need to go for it. Pedal to the metal, flat out.
They're splitting the strategy there between Conway and Buemi. So they had both pitted on the same lap at the end of that yellow flag, and now we've got Conway pitting on 275. So that was a 13-lap stint for Conway, rather than the 14 that we have been seeing. Looks like they're going to leave Buemi out and bring him in at the end of this one, which will be a 14-lapper.
And that means that we're going to see Buemi in the pits now. The Toyota team, they've just done Conway's service. Buemi is next. And Gianni, I think we won't see him in the pits for another 3 laps? 3 laps or 4? Trying to keep the calculations going.
We're going to be seeing Gianni 2.654 laps. No, it'll be 3 because he's going to do on a 13-lap stint.
Yeah, 3 laps. I wasn't sure. When it's 8:30 in the morning and you've been watching this incredible battle non-stop pretty much. I tell a lie, I did get 3 hours sleep last night. I know everybody's mouths just dropped to the floor when I said on Twitter last night, there's no chance I'm sleeping. I suddenly realised, you know what? That 3 hours could be the difference between me calling the race winner and calling the seeing a patch of something on the screen. So I just thought 3 hours, that'll do. And I tell you what, I am better for it. I'm feeling guilty though. I'm feeling very guilty. There's a lot of people out there in South Africa, in America, in China, in Indonesia. I was talking to last night. There was a chap from Indonesia who are going to go the full distance here, 24 hours, with all sorts of incredible concoctions to keep you awake. Combinations of food and drink and sleeping arrangements, computer arrangements. Some of you have got 3 or 4 screens. You've got more, just about the same amount of screens that we have here in the commentary box. One for timing, one for race action, one for telemetry data.
Buemi on his in-lap sets a fastest sector 2 seconds faster than Conway's time, but now Conway on the out-lap responding to that. No, that's Buemi. So as Neil Yarni comes through to take the overall lead, with him in, car 68 getting a penalty for engine running during refueling, which is one of the Fords.
That is one of the Fords.
That's a very drive-through penalty for Dirk Müller.
The car in second place, 13 seconds off Malucelli. That could be the turning point in this race in the GTE Pro.
I wonder whether they've got a problem. I wonder whether that car was left running because they've got a problem. There's no reason a professional outfit like the Chip Ganassi outfit would not leave the engine running during a fuel stop, unless there was some good reason for it.
The Porsche darting out of the way of the AAI Corvette rather dramatically there. Let's watch again. Whoops. That was close. Still, the Porsche pushes on. There it is. There's the penalty confirmation for the Ford in second place, driven currently by Dirk Müller, just 12.9 seconds behind Malucelli in the Ferrari, and that is going to be a costly penalty for Ford. That's really going to throw Ferrari a bit of a lifeline.
Just trying to work back from the end of the race and work out where we're going to be, because we've got this current 3-lap gap between Jarni and Buemi and Conway on the strategy. So the fuel numbers, it's going to be interesting to see somebody's going to have to do a splash and dash to bring them back into line at the end of the race.
Do you know, I think it's going to be Toyota. If anybody's going to have to do a splash and dash, I think it's going to be Toyota.
No, I would say the other way. I would say it's going to be the Porsche.
Information to the pit lane, drive-through penalty on car 68. Drive-through penalty on car 68 for having the engine running during the refueling. Stewart's decision number 44.
I think you're absolutely right, Giles. This is a professional racing team. This is the Works Ford outfit. There's no way they're leaving that engine running during a refueling stop unless they needed to.
Yeah, there's something going on there that they want some time to understand, I think. Just looking, though, at this situation with the stops, I think because the thing that we're missing is the fact that the Toyota can go that extra lap consistently on the stint. And I think that's what's going to save them from the splash and dash at the end, which the Porsche is going to owe us. Now, the Porsche, 42 seconds ahead currently, if it was aligned, they're going to be losing a minute and 5 for a full tank. They won't need to take a full tank. They might get away with taking maybe 20, 30 litres. So that time could come down to maybe 50 seconds. It's still a loss that they're going to have to deal with, and they're going to need to start building the gap to be able to do that if it comes to it. But then we know that one of these Toyotas is likely in the next hour to be sent as the hare.
If you come into the Le Mans 24 Hours with WEC and IMSA or ELMS testing and data and races coming into this one, you do have a better preparation platform. The proof of that is in the 2 GTE Pro Porsches, 91 and 92. That's the Porsche Motorsport factory outfit at GT level, and neither of them have made the finish. They're not racing in anything else, those two cars, this year, not even in the United Sports Cars out in America. So...
No, they are doing the USCC.
Oh, no, sorry, they are doing the USCC.
Porsche North America have got them doing that. So
this is the Ingolstadt-based GT program, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the guys from Manthey Motorsport.
And they're not
this
doing
program. They're not doing the full WEC campaign. This is the only race they're doing.
So even Porsche with a Works outfit cannot get the 91 and 92 to the finish in the same way that some of the other teams.
Penalty for pit stop. The engine was running when we were fueling. I need you to drive straight through the pits here. Sorry, buddy.
I like that. They're apologising. They clearly knew that was going to be a possibility.
It's interesting because I know that they were putting a system on that car whereby the if the nozzle, the refueling nozzle, was entered into the car, the engine would be killed by a switch on that. So I suspect there's a system failure there actually, which is what's caused it. Because I remember having that conversation earlier in the year with the engineers at Multimatic. So probably a system failure. So yeah, I mean. It will be interesting to see how that plays out, the Conway Buemi-Jarni battle in terms of fuel. It certainly isn't all things equal in terms of fuel at this moment in time, but only time is going to tell, and safety cars will play into that to a degree. The slow zones play into that due to fuel usage and fuel saving. So let's see. Nobody knows who's got it right until 3 o'clock.
Ferraris are leading in both the GTE AM and Pro categories at the moment. It's going to be a great day at Maranello if things keep going the way they are. The Tricolore will wave across the podium if the Signatech Alpine keeps going the way it is in the hands of Stefan Richelmy, Gustavo Menezes and Nicolas Lapierre. But the Porsche is leading at the moment. However, it's not leading on pure pace at the moment. The Toyotas have managed to get a pit stop, and they are really slamming that gap down. It's down to 42.6 seconds, and Jarni owes us a pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they'll get ahead of him. It'll be tight as to whether Conway gets out ahead of him. Conway really does need to push on now. He's lost 20 seconds to Buemi in this stint so far. So I wonder whether we're now starting to see the split strategy between the 5 and the 6 of send the 5 as the hare, leave Conway in the 6 in reserve and see where we get to. Now, I would hate to be the team manager having to make the call as to which one you send, which one you leave back there in reserve. But it's going to be interesting. The thing that again we're not focusing on, which we really should be, is Audi number 8. Audi number 8 is the fastest car on track at the moment.
3 minutes 22.9. It's 4 seconds a lap quicker than the leading Porsche. 3 seconds a lap quicker than the Toyotas.
Audi are not done.
No.
Audi know that they can pull this back, and it's interesting to see the pace has come to that car. They'll be doing things on the number 7 car to try and work out what they can do to improve the situation with the balance.
I tell you what, if Audi win this race, and that's not a million miles away from possibility, people at home thinking, nah, you're off your rocker. It's not. This is Audi, don't forget. They've won 13 of the last 16 Le Mans 24 hours. You don't do that by accident. If they pull this back, and the lap times suggest they could do it. There's a full WEC race still coming up, 6 hours coming up. Audi could do this. They could actually win the Le Mans 24 hours. I can't believe we're not including them more in this fight. They're only a lap away. Audi could win this. If they win this, this will be their greatest victory. There's no question about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the most competitive Le Mans 24 hour I think we've ever seen. We're just same thing in the LMP2 class. René Rast is now back on board the Oreca number 26 G drive car, and he is now throwing laps down to try and close the gap to the Alpine number 36 with Ricky Elmi at the wheel at the moment. He's just gone 3 seconds a lap faster. He's a lap down at the moment at 3 seconds in the last lap taken out of the Alpine. So let's see. This is going to be grandstand finish across all cars, across all classes. Müller has now served his penalty in GTE Pro, and the gap to the Malicelli Ferrari is now 38 seconds. So he lost 32 seconds there in the pit lane. Richard Westbrook is now only 1:58 behind in the other Ford. Dirk Müller, he's behind Malicelli. So he's 34 seconds behind his sister car and gaining. And then in the AM class, Swiedler does seem to be able to just keep the gap to the Porsche, but now with David Hamar Hansen bumped into the number 8 Proton competition car. Francois Perrodo in the number 83 Ferrari, another lap back. So still this one lap, and that gap in GTE AM doesn't seem to be coming down.
Toyota 1 and 2 again. The gap, 22.4 seconds between Buemi and Conway. He's been opening up that gap quite nicely as Sebastian Buemi, but that's not the real story. The story is the guy in 4th position, Loic Duval, lapping 3 seconds a lap quicker than any of the 3 cars in front of him. Audi are not throwing in the towel. They will refuse to say die.
He's just constantly pumping the times in as well. He's now on the out lap. In lap, so Duval in. I need to make a note of that and see where he was in terms of his lap. His lap 277. We know Audi cannot do more than a 13-lap stint. Those guys have said, look, this is where we are, this is what we can do, whereas we know that both the others, if they want to, can do the 14.
Michael Colonna, what are the factors separating Toyota from the Porsche pit strategy? Is it drivers? Is it tyres? Is it fuel rate? It's a complicated question, but there is a very simple answer, Giles.
Go again.
The factors separating Toyota from the Porsche pit strategy, what is it? Is it drivers? Is it tyres? Fuel rate?
No, it's this extra lap. This extra lap that we're getting out of the Toyotas. They're not the fastest car on track, but they're consistently just pulling time away. Brilliant shot, reading a Disney magazine.
That is genuinely...
Stolen from his child.
That is the best thing I've seen all Le Mans 24 hours.
I think this is the point where delirium starts to set in for the mechanics.
The thing is, he's probably sitting there thinking, well, this edition of Auto Hebdo, it's really gone down.
Absolutely. So,
well, let's go down to the pits because Neil Yarni has just got out of the Porsche and Gertie's with him.
Neil, you've just got out of the car. It was a pretty hectic stint and switching positions with the Toyota here on Sunday morning. Still 6 hours to go. What will make the difference, you think?
I don't know how the strategies will play out, but it seems to be a head-to-head race. And yeah, everything counts at the moment. Everything, every little thing is counting.
It's a straight fight between you and both Toyotas. Are you keeping an eye out on the Audi number 8 as well? It's not that far behind.
No, at the moment we're just looking ahead, not that backwards.
The fact that you're one car against two, will that play badly, or is that no worry for you? The fact that it's one Porsche against two Toyota, is that a big factor or not?
No, in the end I think both of them want to win as well, so you know, everyone wants to win.
Thank you, Neil.
Some French radio there from the signature car. So yeah, no, I think summarising what we've been saying in terms of they're pressing on, they're looking forwards, they're not looking back at the Audi. And yeah, Mark Lieb now installed in the Porsche. Let's see, you know, the gap now 50 seconds to Buemi, 51 seconds, and he's completed his outlap. So we'll now see what he can do in terms of sector times. It's an even gap between Buemi, Conway, Lieb, 25 seconds between each one.
They always find a way to make people smile, don't they?
It's James from Dunlop, James Mitchell, who used to work for the Jota team. James is always of good humour. Yeah, works at McLaren during the week, but brought into the Dunlop fold for the weekend.
He got well and truly stitched up there, didn't he?
I will enjoy sending him a message in a moment.
JSR Devon and IcePod on Twitter both asked the same question. How many tear-offs do the cars have on their windscreens?
Up to 8.
Up to 8, okay. And it's interesting because IcePod said he hadn't seen any of the disposable windshields being removed.
It's a strange one. You don't want to remove them unless you need to. And the disposable windshields these days aren't just there for cleanliness, they're also there as a toughener for the windscreen. It's amazing how much tougher the windscreens are with those on. Normally, the time you see them coming off is during the early morning. That's when you want to pull them. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I haven't seen them coming off really either. I haven't seen people taking them away.
I suppose one flick of gravel, that's a crack in the windscreen at the wrong angle.
It is, whereas these films do such a good job of protecting the screen. So no, I mean, I haven't seen any off either, so no, I totally agree with that.
So Toyota, Porsche, Audi is the order at the moment, but we're not counting Audi out of this one yet, despite the fact that they are on lap 279 and Buemi is on lap 280. There's only a lap in it, folks, and there's 6 hours and 12 minutes to go. Anything is still possible, and Audi know that. They've come back from the brink before. They wouldn't have won 13 out of the last 16 Le Mans 24 hours if they didn't know how to cope with adversity. And Loic Duval in the number 8 Audi is getting on with this. He's doing everything he can, and he is flying.
Yeah, just waiting for some decent sector times from the Audi number 8, but he'll be coming through very shortly. There he is, 32.7. Yep, fastest in the first sector. Fastest in the first sector by some 3/10. So, yeah, he's absolutely on it, and I think that there's only one way forward for those guys now, and that is absolute maximum attack. They've got to take risks, they've got to push through the traffic, and they've just got to hope that those drivers don't make a mistake.
On the subject of Audi, JCLs2 on Twitter, could it be possible that Audi has been holding back so far and that they'll surprise us in the last hour? Not a chance in heaven.
No, I mean, we've got to remember why they lost the time. Ultimately, the Audis had turbo problems early on the number 7 car, which took that car out of the race, really. That's 10 laps behind its sister car. Those guys then had another issue, which we still don't understand what it was. The car had to come in. They brought number 7 in first. They practiced changing something under the rear deck. On number 7, they lost 4 minutes. They did the same thing on number 8 2 laps later. So they have lost time through mechanical reliability issues. The drivers have been pretty faultless, it has to be said. And they were pretty damn good on the strategy at the start of the race as things went on with the rain. They've only led 2 laps of Le Mans so far.
Audi don't do things by halves. They don't hold back. Audi are not known for holding back. They never do. So why would they?
No, absolutely. No, but I do think what we're seeing now is the drivers being told, look, there's only one chance. Just drive as fast as you can.
Yeah, we may get to the podium, we may get the win, we may not. The only thing you can do is drive out of your skin, and that's exactly what Loic Duval and his two teammates, it has to be said. It's not just a one-man job. Lucas Di Grassi and Oliver Jarvis are both on exactly the same strategy here. Just go for it. And Oliver Jarvis is no slouch, nor is Lucas Di Grassi. So they've got three incredibly fast racing drivers in that Audi. Paul Marcel Fessler, Benoit Chalieu and Andre Lotterer, who have won Le Mans together 3 times now. They're not really going to get a look in at this rate. I would have said
there
maybe...
is no chance for those guys. You're not going to lose 4 cars for 10 laps.
One, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. A podium is probably still reasonable for those guys. It's still plausible, but I don't think at this stage in the game we're going to lose that many cars, touch wood.
So down the Mulsanne straight once again, heading towards the first chicane. That is the SMP car running in 3rd position in LMP2 with Victor Scheitar in the field. The only driver in the entire field who was also doing the Road to Le Mans race earlier on.
Yeah, Victor drove the GT3 Ferrari 488 to victory in the Road to Le Mans GT3 classification. Did a fantastic job there, and I'm sure that the SMP boys are very happy with that, and the guys back at the factory at Michelotto also very happy to see their GT3 car winning here at Le Mans.
Surely that makes him a glutton for punishment, doing a race like that for an hour on his own and then doing a 24-hour race straight after.
No, I think Victor's pretty well respected now. You know, Victor last year, GTE AM driver for the SMP team, and now promoted up into the LMP2 squad, proving why he was put there now. You know, he's doing a fantastic job. He is running, he's running 5 seconds off Rene Rast, but that's not a fair reflection. He's running the same pace as all the other top drivers in LMP2, but Rast really is on it now, trying to close the gap to Ricky Helmy. So Rast, his last lap was 5 seconds faster than anybody else in the class.
Here's Andrea Pizzitola, former GT Academy graduate.
Yeah.
Talented racing driver.
One of the ones who's managed to make it outside of the GT Academy.
Yeah. There's not many of those either. Lucas Ordonez, Jan Mardenborough, and the Japanese winner. I can never remember his name off the top of my head. Somebody who watches the GT Academy.
Jan has. Jan, I think, will continue to do very well in Japan, but I think the chances of Jan coming back and having much of a European career, frankly, at the moment with the projects Nissan have got on, are slim. But he's definitely becoming a superstar out in Japan.
Yeah, Jan is one of those kind of people who is not going to go for a small beer opportunity. He wants big, he wants brash, he wants bold. And the only way you're going to get that is with a factory effort in a very, very strong competition. Hence, Nissan in Super GT. Yeah, it's a great choice for him, to be fair.
It is. And you know, they're putting him through an F3 program out there as well. So he knows what he's doing, and he's getting all the experience that he needs. But no, it's good to see these Nissan athletes, these Mo athletes, still in there, and you know, Chris Hoy sharing that car with Pizzitola, and yeah, we'll see where we are at the end of the race.
Here's an easy question to answer from Jason Turner. Say the number 8 Audi crashes out. Can a driver from the number 7 give up his spot to a faster driver from the Audi number 8, like McQueen did in Le Mans? No. It's as simple as that. It's not allowed in the rules, so you can't do that. It's similar but to Cooper McNeil. He obviously fell ill earlier on, and there could very easily have been another driver somewhere down the pit lane who could have taken his place, but that's not in the rules either. So sadly, you can never see that happen.
And that happened, unfortunately, with Gunnar Jeanette was here, and he was ready to get in that car during warm-up to do his 5 laps. He was stood there in his suit with his helmet on while they were having the discussion with the FIA about whether they could put him in the car, and unfortunately the FIA had to say, no, look, you can't do this, we're not going to let you in at this stage. I think even with the dispensation of the other teams, they probably wouldn't have allowed that to happen.
Nico de Paia, does each team get to choose brand of fuel, or is all fuel supplied by one brand?
All fuel is supplied by Shell. It's got 20% ethanol in it. The diesels from Audi have got a stock diesel supplied again by Shell, so that's completely governed by the regulation.
6 hours and 5 minutes to go in the Le Mans 24 hours, and we were talking about it being a 2-horse race. it could just become a 3-horse race again. We cannot underestimate the power of Audi. They are still coming, and they are still lapping at exactly the same pace as the Toyotas and the Porsche now. The Porsche's just done a 3:23.3 to pick up the pace. The Toyotas are on 3:24s, as is the Audi number 8. So it's still a 3-way fight. It has to be.
Give it an hour.
Yeah, give it an hour.
Give it an hour. Let's see where we are with 5 hours to go. I think that Audi's going to be back on the lead lap.
Yeah, I don't think it's a slim chance. I think it's a very good chance, because that's an Audi. If it was any other car, in any other class, in any other fight, I would be doubtful by now, because we've got 6 hours to go. But that's an Audi.
It's going to be back on the lead lap, and then it's going to get interesting. Then you, if you're Toyota, you're going to be starting to think about, right, okay, what do I do with my 2 cars? Do I cover the Audi and chase the Porsche? How do we do it? You know, they're going to have some difficult decisions to make, but the difference is Toyota have got 2 bullets in the gun.
Audi has led 2 laps of this race. If they take the lead on the last lap, surely that will break the record for the least amount of laps a winner has ever led the Le Mans 24 Hours.
I'm sure it probably would.
That's absolutely astonishing, the story that's playing out here. Loic Duval, Lucas di Grassi, and the third man.
Mark Lieb's got the message. 3:22.5 on that last lap in third place. In the third place Porsche, so now chasing down, trying to close the gap to the Toyotas as these pit stops swing through. So Lieb on 52 seconds behind the leader, 21 behind Mike Conway. Conway does seem to be losing a decent chunk of time to Buemi. Buemi's just got it going, got it hooked up, and it's taken 30 seconds out of Conway so far in this stint. So it's a big gap. Conway just gives him a little bit of a response, but that's probably down to traffic through the first sector of this lap. But yeah, Conway 30 seconds lost so far in this stint.
And he's just done a 3:27.2, so that's 4 seconds in 1 lap gone.
Yeah, I think Conway's the conservative car. I do think Toyota have now made the decision, look, we need to run 1 car safe, 1 car fast. I really wouldn't have liked to have been one of the guys on the pit wall to make that call, but my gut feeling is, when we heard Buemi talking about team orders, there'd already been a discussion with Mike Conway before he got in that car. And Mike knew what he needed to do. Mike was going out there to bring consistent fast lap times, quick enough to stay ahead of the Porsche, but not go and break the car.
No,
Buemi, on the other hand, go.
Yeah, just give it the beans, go for it. And that works as a strategy, because if the number 5 does push itself too far, they've still got 1 left. And they've still got a great chance.
And he's not going to end up a lap down, although 30 seconds over 1 stint is a big chunk of time. That's not been through slow zones and safety cars. That's just generally, lost through traffic and general running. So, yeah, Buemi putting in an absolute blinder of a stint at the moment, but so's Mark Lieb.
So the RGR Moran team are getting ready for a pit stop. The 41 Ligier, that's the Greaves Motorsport car, has worked its way up into the top 6. And Memo Rojas has just come in to change to Julian Canal. We're on board with the leader, though, in LMP2. Stefan Richelmy, the 36th Alpine Nissan, run by Signatech. And that car just in front of us, I believe that is the race performance car, the 33 just in front of us.
Looks that way, yeah. Diving up the inside as he comes down into the Ford chicane.
Yeah. It's only taken me 18 hours to learn them all now. Only took me 18 hours. So Buemi, Conway, Lieb, Duval, Fesla is the order in the LMP1s. And the LMP2s, it is the Signatech Alpine, Stefan Richelmy leading the G-Driver Raycap and the SMP Racing BR Engineering car. The Stracker is 4th. Tristan Gomedy in the 33. Eurasia car is in 5th position. Fair play to them. They've been getting on with things very quietly, and they popped themselves up into a very strong top 6, almost unnoticed. And then the Greaves Ligier is up into 6th position. In the Pro category, that penalty for Ford has really cost them a lot. Malucelli is now 35 seconds clear of Dirk Muller in the second Ford. The third place man is Westbrook in the 69 Ford. So both the Chip Ganassi USA cars are still up the front. Stefan Muka is recovering just behind the Aston Martin of Marco Sorensen, who's there in 4th position overall now. And the second Aston, the 97 of Johnny Adam, has moved into the top 6. So Aston Martin may not have had the 1 lap pace, but over the course of 24 hours, it's still a very reliable machine.
No, they're doing exactly what they said they were going to do. They didn't. I don't think they thought they had the pace to win this race from the outset. Talking to the engineers down there on Friday, it was very clear that they were here to collect a bag full of points. And that's exactly what they're doing. You know, at this moment in time, they're just hammering it in, making sure that this double points WEC round, they take the points away from it. They can go away, look at it, understand where they are, hope that the balance performance comes further back towards them after Le Mans, and then they can go and get the job done.
You need to wake up now, lad.